reserves, one of the marshals, will have certainly seen whether it was 4, 5 or 6 who made contact with the Iron Lynx, the Iron Dames Lamborghini. Sarah Bovy did make it back to the pit lane. She's gone back out on track. But oh boy, the gap that the Porsche was going for no longer existed when he got there. On board with Dries Vanthoor, chasing is Mathieu Vaxivière. BMW, brand new car to WEC this year, though it raced last year in the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Series in North America, being chased by a brand new car, period, the Alpine.
It's a good run at the moment from Dries Vanthoor. He's been the hammerman in that number 15 car, has gone through on the 36 Alpine and is now chasing down Renger van der Zande in that number 3 Cadillac. Another one, by the way, that's been in trouble and very lucky to survive it. Bit of good news on the Iron Dames. That was, what was it, 1 minute and 43 seconds on pit lane. They're back out and running.
Well, that's ridiculous, because a normal driver change pit stop would take very nearly that time, so clearly very little needed doing. I wonder whether she did get a new set of tyres. It is still Sarah Bovy, so Sarah Bovy's still in the car doing her time. So too, by the way, since the start of the race, is Ben Keating. Now, the minimum drive time in the 24 hours for a bronze-rated driver is 6 hours.
Correct.
Ben Keating can't do it all in one go, can he? He can drive no more than 4 hours in a row.
4 in any 6-hour period.
Right, so we are now 5 hours and 2 minutes into the race. Who else has been in that car? I'm not quite sure. We have to, I'm sure they know what's going on. Let's ride on board with Valentino Rossi. Peter Dumbreck right up behind a rival in a very different looking kind of car in terms of the Mustang.
I'm pretty certain we've seen Felipe Albuquerque in that car at some point in this race, and I've got a funny feeling we may have seen Ben Hanley as well. But what have you spotted, David Addison, on that one?
Well, the Ben Keating car, when he went off into the gravel,
yes,
a piece of gravel got stuck between the alternator belt and the pulley.
Right.
And has done it. And it's been in the pits ever since. So I think that car's pretty much retired. It's not been nominated or declared a retirement, but I think it has effectively retired because of that damage that the gravel did when it got where gravel shouldn't go. Horrible
Look for the 23 car, which was, I think, by anybody's money, one of the favourites for the LMP2 Pro-Am class, and I think quite fancied as well to be further up the order than that as things actually evolve in this race. But also back on the microphone, it's Peter Dumbreck. Peter, you've been watching from afar.
Yes, bits and bobs. Yeah, I think it's quite impressive that, okay, they're on a different strategy, but that both Toyotas have come back into the race, although we've just seen that one of them's got a drive-through penalty, so that's going to drop that back down again.
Yeah, we've got now the 83 AF Corsa car leading the race in the hands of AEFA. 17 seconds ahead. Looking here at the LMGT3 graphic, and this is on board with Valentino Rossi. The doctor is in the house. He's in the BMW. He goes through the same point where Sarah Bovy got the impact from a Porsche, and it was another Porsche passing it by there, but with no contact this time. Valentino Rossi putting in a storming run. He's at the moment 1 minute and 20 seconds ahead of Jules Sturm.
That is impressive.
In the Monti Pure Racing Porsche, the second Porsche in the hands of Yasser Shahin. That car 25 seconds further back. Worth saying, by the way, in a point of history, fewest GT class Porsches in this Le Mans 24 Hours in this century.
As a thought for you, the aggressive Porsche against Sarah Bovy was Mathieu Jaminet, who is under investigation.
Number 4. Well, and rightly so from what we saw. It's certainly worth an investigation. We only saw one point of view of it. It warrants another look. And having had the opportunity, almost by accident, to see exactly what systems the stewards have here, to actually observe in pinpoint accuracy using GPS technology, they will be able to determine who was at fault for that one.
How many of that leading group are still kind of on the same strategy or pitting round about the same time, because with all of the earlier stops for tyres and having to come and change from the wrong back onto the right, it's broken everything up a little bit compared to the first round of pit stops.
It is a bit of a mishmash. You've got the magic box in front of you, Pete. I'll let you crunch those numbers and come back to us with that one. But
annoyingly, though, they're all in a jumbled order.
Yeah, I think the reality is they're certainly not all pitting in the same 1 or 2 laps. And what that is giving us is an opportunity for these cars to close and pass and then be repassed. We're going to get into the night here. It is not going to be in any way straightforward. That period of time, David, where we got that burst of rain and several of the teams opted to go for the wet tyres, and it proved to be a mistake because it dried too quickly, has mixed things up in all 3 classes.
I heard you touching on Valentino Rossi a moment ago, leading in LMGT3, a much more rounded driver, Valentino Rossi. Every race he does, he learns a bit and gets better, but of course he comes here as a class winner last year in that Road to Le Mans race, and of course he's a double winner now. One last year, one this year in GT World Challenge Europe. So he's not that motorcyclist now racing cars, he's a GT race winner. And loving it, and I'm sure he's loving this event as well. And the crowd here are loving having him here, and they're certainly loving having him leading this race. The 46 car, 37th overall, leading this new for 2024 LMGT3 class, BMW Lead Le Mans. Indeed so, whereas the hypercars are having a pretty torrid time, aren't they? Robin Frins lost all that time earlier on with his accident, and Marco Wittmann had a spin in 15 very, very early on in the race. And 50 is bound for the pits, we understand. So Miguel Molina at the wheel of number 50 out of 2nd place is due to come in, we are told, on this lap as we go on board with Yi Yifei in 83, having taken it over from Robert Schwarzman, who took it over from Robert Kubica. And the Chinese driver, another single-seater gun, comes out of the 2nd chicane. Yeah, last lap, by the way, from AFA and from Miguel Molina in 2nd place. Identical to the 1000th, 3:31.746 for both Ferraris. They pressed that button on the dash. Yeah. But they're 15.5 seconds apart, with Matt Campbell in the chasing number 5 Porsche a further 8.5 seconds back. But then it's Toyota number 8 of Brendan Hartley, which is still looking strong, isn't it? Even if it's not spending all its time running up the front, it's kind of always there or thereabouts. It's certainly not one to rule out. Again, you talk to some of the sages in the press room, and they've got their money on number 8. It is a head-in turn of 51 of Antonio Giovinazzi, and to round out the top 6, Norman Nato, and a drive-through penalty for Mathieu Jaminet for the incident with Sarah Bovy. So it's little things like that that can lose you the race as well. I'd like to have heard that radio communication actually after that, because I don't think the one from Sarah is going to be broadcastable. Yeah. I suggest to you that it would have been high-pitched and unpleasant, and correctly so. It did look like a big hit. As I said, from what we saw, we may well get that clip again. From what we saw, we're lucky that that car was able to rejoin, get back to the pits and rejoin the race. We have had it confirmed that the Ferdinand Habsburg Alpine is a retirement. No real surprise in that, but the team have confirmed it as you ride on board with Kevin Estre, then the hero of Hyperpole. But he's got to be really heroic in this, hasn't he? Because this car is only 8th. It's still on the lead lap, but it's 2 minutes and 14. It's therefore the better part of a lap adrift of the lead. Absolutely right. This battle between the Porsche and the Toyota. 6 car in the hands of Kevin Estre, closing in on Jose Maria Lopez. This is a battle for 7th position. Ahead of them, by the way, a further 10 seconds to the good is the better place in the 2 Jota, Hertz Team Jota cars. The 12 car, Norman Nato. Well, you know, we're into, what, the 6th hour now. That car that was a literal bag of bits just a couple of days ago, contesting a top 10 place here at the Le Mans 24 Hours. Let's hear what car 6.
We can see some late front lockup. Recommend 1 click rearward on Pilat.
Setup adjustment, but Kevin Estre is about to make his move, isn't he, on Jose Maria Lopez, who tries to pick his way through the traffic, diving down towards Mulsanne corner, and Kevin Estre decides discretion is the better part of valor there and slots in behind Michael Wainwright in that GR Racing Ferrari. Both of the hypercars dive out of the draft to get through the traffic. slot back in, a little bit of a toe, pull out again, get through. Estra's lost a couple of cars' lengths, but he's still in the hunt, isn't he?
Well, that's the kind of move, probably, Peter Dumbrecht, that you might have actually put on that Ferrari maybe in the last hour, but not here.
Yeah, I think Lopez is a wily character. He's been here, you know, many times. He's just back in this car, having supposed to have been in the GT car for Lexus. So he's been promoted back up into the number 7 hypercar. But he knows his way around, and he's not just going to give that place up easily.
No, absolutely right. As into the pit lane has just gone, as predicted, number 50 Ferrari. So that puts Matt Campbell up into second, Brendan Hartley to third for the moment. And this battle heads now up towards the Porsche curves. We also understand that number 5 is going to be in this next lap, which is Matt Campbell at the wheel of the car in second place. And again, scything through the traffic is the Toyota in the hands of Jose Maria Lopez. This is where you've got to be so brave and committed and trust the back markers.
The other man who's been in and out of the pits is Valentino Rossi. Just waiting for him to clear the next timing sector, because he's going to be in very close contention now with Joel Sturm in that Chasing Montai Pure Racing number 92 car, the Lithuanian flagged entry that leads the championship at the moment in the WEC. They've been very strong indeed, and it's
also just done the fastest lap, so he's really pushing on.
Yeah, he is.
So let's wait till they do clear the long sector 2 to see exactly where that battle sits.
Joel Sturm, rookie here. Valentino Rossi, rookie in the 24 hours. And then Yasser Shaheen in third spot. So
all 3 rookies then in the battle for the top 3 positions in this early stages of the race.
It's one of the beauties of LMGT3. It's brought so many new names to Le Mans, even people like Christopher Mies, who seem to have been around forever. And it's his first Le Mans 24 hours.
Kelvin van der Linde, another.
Exactly.
Sheldon van der Linde, another. And it's not just LMGT3. With many of the factories turning to their GT factory drivers to populate the driver squads in hypercar, we've got all sorts of people that you would sort of expected to check the history books and see them appearing once or twice, that no, they're part of, what is it, 47 or 48?
47 in the end, yeah, rookie drivers. So it's an impressive number, and it's also interesting to see which drivers have been 2 or 3 times before, because if they're in LMP2, often they kind of fly under the radar a little bit, but they've got the experience. 38 goes through, which now is Jenson Button at the wheel, the Formula 1 world champion, and he is hunting down Dries van Thor in what is really the surviving BMW hypercar, because the second one, after Robin Frins's zealotry, is down in 36th. Into the pit lane comes the lead car then, 83 Ferrari. Yafei will lose that lead to Matt Campbell. Now let's see whether he's going to stay on board. Looks like he is. No tyres ready, so this should just be fuel.
It's a good stint there from the AFA. Cycled back round to the lead he inherited.
This car was 7th at the end of the opening hour. Into the pit lane also comes Matt Campbell, so the top 2 come into the pit lane. But 83, from not really drawing attention to itself in the week, well, there it is. It's up at the front, and it has led at the end of the previous 3 hours.
Well, Robert Kubica, a known quantity. AFA showed his mettle last year at Le Mans and through the season with Hertz Team Jota. And Robert Schwartzman, yet another young man looking to make his mark in sports car racing.
Schwartzman had this great bit of audio last year in the last GT World Challenge endurance round. We had a late race safety car, and he got on the radio and he said, who am I chasing? And the answer was Lucas Stoltz, Mercedes, to which Schwartzman said to the team, is he any good? This is multiple race winner, title winner, Lucas Stoltz. Schwartzman, no idea of the company he was keeping, but he's a very quick driver.
Spent some time with Ferrari last month at Maranello with some media work before the 24 Hours of Le Mans. And one of the nicest stories to come out of that is confirming their intention is this 83 squad will return unchanged next year. So Kubica seem very much as an elder statesman helping their young talents who they see as being the future of this hypercar program at the factory level.
Yeah, Robert Kubica has, as you would expect, been very impressive in that car, but so he should. He is up against some very good drivers, but we always knew in Formula 1 that he was a star. Let's listen in to the lead car now, Brendan Hartley's Toyota.
Okay, Brendan, both cars ahead have pitted again. You are in the lead of the race once more.
Now, fast forward this, assuming that we didn't have any more rain to affect things, or safety cars may be, would that Toyota be in the lead when the checkered flag came out, or would it, on the cycle of pit stops, have fallen back in the traffic?
Well, that's too hard a bunch of maths for me to do at this time.
Well, it's impossible because we don't know about safety cars, do we, or the rain or anything like that.
But I think, as we debated a little earlier, it is on a cycle, and we're going to get to that stage of the race, because we always do, when we start counting back rather than forwards, and that's when it certainly seems to take on just a different complexion. There's a quick sight there with the one change for the 83 this year. We'll have a listen into what they're saying first. I'll explain what.
Okay, so this will be again 12 laps.
So confirmation of that. What you saw, by the way, is he flashed the headlamps at the LMGT3 cars ahead, is the one new thing on that car apart from the livery this year, and it's those two central endurance lights just underneath the number panel in the nose. They weren't there last year, and they're very, very effective.
We were also watching Valentino Rossi getting passed by Joe Sturm, so that was a position change for first position in GT.
Indeed so, and also a few minutes ago we saw Renger van der Zande running wide, didn't we, coming out of the Dunlop S's and clattering the guardrail. Well, on his last lap but one, he did the car's best lap of the race.
So it's okay then?
It's okay, everything's pointing in the right direction. And now that he's taken a layer of paint off one side, it's lighter, so it's clearly quicker.
But it was quite some...
wasn't it?
Quite some thunk on that barrier.
Big old whack, absolutely. Right, so Brendan Hartley leads the way, and a personal best first sector time now as he tries to position that car to hang on to the lead after its next pit stop.
So Toyota from AF Corse, the 83, the privately entered Ferrari, then the 50 factory Ferrari, the first of the three Porsche Penske Motorsport 963s, and therefore the first of the Porsches, the third Ferrari, all three Ferraris in the top five still, then the first of the Hertz Team Jota cars, which astonishingly is the car that was rebuilt this week after the accident for Callum Ilott. The number 7 Toyota, so both Toyotas in the top 7 and looking strong. Then the 6 Porsche Penske Motorsport car, the 311 Whelen Cadillac, the number 3 Cadillac, the one that David's just been talking about, and then the 11th place car is the 38 Hertz Team Jota car in the hands at the moment of Jenson Button, Mathieu Vazevière in the surviving Alpine after the retirement of the 35 with what looked like an engine failure.
And those two spins that the Lamborghinis had have now put them down into 17th and 18th places. Remember, they were quite well placed early on, but that was largely because they got it right, Peter, on the tyre core at the right time. Now you've kind of gone back to pure pace. They're not looking quite so hot.
That's it. They need another little sprinkle of rain and another good strategy call to bring them back into the race, which we do expect a bit of rain overnight, possibly. Yep. So things might spice up a little bit. I think the leader, Brendan Hartley, is probably due into the pits within a lap or two as well. So that will also cycle the 83 car probably back into the lead.
Now on board here with Valentino Rossi, the car you're going to see ahead is the 92 car. Jules Sturmy is just extending that lead. Are we going to see the first Lithuanian flagged winner at Le Mans? Because that's the country that Pure Racing hail from. Porsche, of course, and the Monti Racing crew that are just so effective with these 911s in previously GTE, but now GT3, LMGT3 format. But he's not letting it go, is he? Valentino Rossi pushing on hard.
Using all the track and a little bit more.
He's a fast learner, though, and he's had some expert tutelage in this car, particularly from Maxime Martin over the last couple of seasons, and you don't often see Valentino Rossi making mistakes. He's built up the pace, but he's never been a rock ape. He's never been throwing it at the scenery in the World Challenge races, whether it's been in this car or in his first season with the Audi. And there is the brains trust, if you like, behind the pace of Valentino Rossi. Maxime Martin, Spa 24-hour winner, former factory driver for Aston Martin. He's been at BMW either side of that sojourn with Aston, and a very, very quick and a very good, safe pair of hands as the BMW goes a lap down on the hypercars there.
So Brendan Hartley continues to lead the motor race for Toyota Gazoo Racing in the number 8 car, but is on a different strategy, pit strategy to the chasing Ferraris. The Ferraris certainly here, gentlemen, seem to have the pace.
I'm with Mike McGregor, Endurance Program Manager for Goodyear. Mike, now Goodyear this year are supplying to LMP2 and GT3. That's an enormous feat for you to supply to.
Yeah, it's a huge step from where we've been in the past. I mean, supplying 39 cars is the most Goodyear's ever done in its history. Scaling up our operation, our track support, and having to look after all of those cars in the right way with the right tyres has been a real challenge.
And we've already seen it, we've said it before about tyres here in particular. How is that affecting the Goodyears and what the teams have chosen?
Well, I mean, obviously, we're the first tyre manufacturers to go down to single specification slick and wet. And we saw when we had that shower earlier, some teams interrupted their triple stints, pitted for wets, but actually some teams stayed on slicks. And that seems to have been the big benefit to those teams right now. But we've already got some of the GT3 teams going beyond 3 stints. So in the first year on these new tyres, it's a big thing for us. And we know from LMP2 in the past, we can do as many as 5 stints. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens.
And particularly overnight?
Yeah, obviously as the temperature starts to drop, you know, it's going to get a little bit more difficult for some of the drivers, but we know with the tyres they should be in a good place.
So can you tell me what the weather's going to do over the next 20 hours?
Well, this is my 19th Le Mans, and I still can't tell you now which is the best weather forecast, but I know the conditions are going to be changeable.
All right, thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Down to Mulsanne corner. The headlights now starting to have more of an effect in all of this, piercing the darkness. The Cadillacs, though, they went well last year, didn't they? And they've shown good pace this week. They need to get a bit of a wriggle on because the opposition is overall tougher this year, so you can't stay at the same pace. You've got to up your game. They're still there or thereabouts, though.
Yeah, third last year with, I think it was Richard Westbrook's car. So we know they're capable of it. You're right, though. I think the ultimate pace just might not be quite there, but as the race evolves, there is a chance they will increase pace and get on terms with the Ferraris and the Toyotas.
Nico Lapierre ready to get aboard the 36. I guess this is the question. We know that these cars can be mildly developed, and we've seen that with some of the hypercars already. Cadillac have taken a different path here. What they've done is they're trying to optimize the package they've got. They're learning what they can about what the car can and can't do. Some software changes with that car. They're finding pace. They're finding pace deeper into those stints, and the results are beginning to come. They've not necessarily had the discipline, and they've not necessarily had the luck, but what they have had is pace.
5.5 litre V8 makes a great noise, that Cadillac engine.
Sound of freedom.
Absolutely. Those together with the Mustangs is just an audio heaven. That. Right, number 8, Brendan Hartley, still leads the way. Let's listen in.
Also, you can tell Rio I prefer to be more close on DC. I didn't really like it when I opened it more. And if you lock rears on the slow speed corners, you have more, you have less traction. So try not to lock the rears on the low speed.
So this is Brendan Hartley getting Rio Hirakawa ready to get into that car, Peter.
Yeah, it's always good to have a little bit of information from your teammate, just to, you know, if there's something a little bit strange on the car, it's good that you know about it and you don't have to learn firsthand. So Brendan talking about the rear locking, I'm guessing on the brakes into the slow corner, so just to watch that downshift, watch that braking, just bleed off the brake as you get closer to the apex so the rear doesn't lock.
Apart from telling Rio Hirakawa not to do it, what else can they do? I mean, is this something that is going to be there all race, or on a pit stop, is there anything they can do to tweak it?
Well, obviously there's the brake bias. It could be, though, it's the regen into the, you know, the lifting coast. It could be something to do with that. So, yeah, it would be something specific to that car that they all know about anyway.
Stoffel Vandoorne in Peugeot number 94 has done that car's best lap of the race. Every Belgian I talk to tells me you pronounce the E at the end in exactly the same way that you don't when you drink Lef.
Right,
So
okay.
it's Van Dorn and left.
Got that. But the significant thing about the pace of that car, you're absolutely right, David, that is the fastest lap of the race, a 3:32.006 for that car. Compare that to the fastest lap of the race overall, which was done on lap 46 by Antonio Fuoco in the 50 Ferrari. That is almost 3 seconds quicker.
Yeah, exactly. It's a bit depressing for Peugeot. Steps are being made. I don't think the steps necessarily are great enough, and they're kind of a year behind the 8 ball anyway, given that they ran a different car last year.
Quite right too. So they are learning this car, they're learning it rapidly. The next throw the dice here, one of two things. It's one of the things I'm going to ask Peter Dumbreck and when Rob Bell comes back on just a few minutes time to start to think about is, we're going to get into the night and the cooler air there, and then if we do get concerted rain, we saw it last year at the Le Mans 24 Hours, where all of a sudden the form book was turned upside down. Peugeot came back into it. Peugeot led this motor race before a bit of a hit with the barriers.
But the opposition, like with, oh hello, damage on. Which one is that?
That's the 4.
Is that Yamane from touching the?
I think it was.
Possibly right.
Lambo.
This is the hit. There.
Wow.
Yeah, on Sarah Bovey's side, she wasn't doing anything wrong there. Yamane was just not leaving her quite enough room. That is a normal overtaking manoeuvre around the outside, but you've just got to leave a bit more space.
Where could she have gone? You know,
Yeah,
she was virtually on the edge of the road anyway. She couldn't just disappear. No.
Yeah.
Right, lead car currently is 83, as we've just had 51 make another pit stop. You've just seen it blast away. So now, of course, the traffic becomes just a constant issue, doesn't it, all the way through. Almost every car you come across, you're having to think about whether it's a battle or whether it's lappery. We're getting one or two, not only better lap times, but better sectors. Van Dorn is still on the money, you know. He's just done another personal best sector in 94 Peugeot. It's a long way down, as we've been saying, but the pace looks pretty decent.
Well, you know, it's so obvious to talk about it, but there's 18.5 hours left of the race, and you know, anything can happen, and there will be cars in front of them. If they survive and get through the night, there will be cars in front of them that encounter problems. So I think from Peugeot's point of view, yeah, they're probably not going to win the race, but if they could get one car into the top 5, that would be pretty spectacular.
Just going back a conversation or 7, Ben Keating is no longer shown as being in the pit lane but on the track, which is good news. But the 77 Proton Mustang that looked good early on has been in the pit lane for a long, long time. Now, that's Zach Robichon on it.
That's the one we saw come in with damage to the front right corner.
Right.
And the #1 mechanic didn't look to me to be that confident there was an easy fix. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
Well, I'm going to say my farewells for the time being. Before we do, just want to remind people that if you are looking for more entertainment of this sort, and either in taking a bit of a break away from the TV and with whatever device you've got, keep an eye on some of the fantastic stuff that's coming out from the ACO, from the FIWC, and from this race and around it on all the available social media. Remember too, not just that the highlights programmes are becoming online in the days to follow, but the full access programme. We've seen so much drama, gentlemen, in the first, 5.5 hours of this race, and you'll get a completely different perspective of it through the full access programme that should be online under 2 weeks after this race. Always worth a look. Fantastic insight into this multi-layered sport.
Another car that's starting to work its way back into contention is the #7 Toyota, isn't it? Because that hovered around 5th at the turn of the last hour, half an hour or so ago, but now it's sort of plateaued in 8th place. But it's finally made some progress, Peter, from the back of the hypercar grid that didn't really look to be happening on the first stint.
Yeah, obviously that was a car that Kobayashi was driving in qualifying. He had the off whilst he was on for the fastest lap, so he missed out on the hyperpole, missed out in qualifying altogether, had all of his times taken off of him. So they're basically playing catch-up and bringing that car back up. They're back in contention. They've also had the issue that during the last drop of rain, both Toyotas went onto wet tyres, and Ferrari pretty much got their strategy correct by staying on the slick tyre. So it's all kind of coming back to them again now. Every time they come up the order, some they fall back and they're coming back again. And, you know, we've got predicted rain in about half an hour's time. So it all might change again.
We understand as well that there's some debris on the track between turns 10 and 11, just to keep people on their toes. You're riding here with number 15 BMW, the car that spun earlier on, Dries van Voor, who's been the real gun in that car over the week. He is now trying to wriggle his way up the order. The target, Renger van der Zander's Cadillac, that he's got to try and hunt down.
No, I was just thinking, did he spin, or was it the number 20 that... So it was the 20 that went... Oh, they both spun.
Yeah, Vetman
right.
spun that early on, and Frins crashed number 20.
I see.
Van Voor has now cleared the Cadillac of Renger van der Zander, so that puts Dries up into 13th place. But Rob Bell, we've been looking at these BMWs, and I think both you and Peter have said in the past they look really edgy cars. They're not a comfortable ride.
Yeah, it does appear that way, and you know, we've got really experienced, fantastic factory drivers in those cars, and we've seen Dries van Voor off twice, both at Indianapolis.
Correct,
wasn't it?
yes, indeed.
You know, I don't remember the last time I saw him make a mistake at all. So clearly a car that was savagely quick. It was at the top of the order in qualifying before Hyperpole, obviously. So it's clearly got the pace, or had the pace, but obviously just quite a handful.
Well, when you get a chance to see the BMW, you see the movement of the car, and it just looks a little bit more, as we talked about, edgy. And the other cars sit down a bit more and just grip up and drive out. You see with the bumps there, and yeah, that's Alpine now, isn't it?
But that Cadillac behind, okay, it's just been caught and passed by the BMW. That was in that leading group in the first stint. So, again, I'm slightly mystified by the Cadillacs. Either they're running to a very happy pace and they'll wait and see what develops, which I'm not convinced about, or they just don't have quite the ultimate speed, because that BMW has been able to catch and get through and pull away. And Van der Zander, not that long ago, was doing the car's best laps.
Yeah, absolutely. They just seem to be just hanging on to the top 10
yes, you're right.
around, rather than making progress.
Yeah.
Where we see the strength clearly of the Porsche, Ferrari and Toyota seem to be in a league of their own.
I think another important thing to mention is that each different car is on a different strategy tyre-wise, and possibly even a different tyre. So medium and soft being used. If a car is on a soft tyre, obviously you're generating a bit more grip, but if that car on the soft tyre is on the third stint, the tyre tends to wear down a bit, and then a car on a medium tyre would have a bit more grip at that point.
Just had a switch, as you've seen, between the two Hertz Team Jota Porsche 963s. Jenson Button goes ahead here of Norman Nato. So switch between the pair, and that is for 6th and 7th places. Jenson Button flies, so to speak, and he is up at Indianapolis, having gained 1 spot. And with just over 5.5 hours of the race done, 2 confirmed retirements. The number 35 Alpine out of the race, the car of Paul-Loup Chatin, Ferdinand Hasbo-Charmelaise.
And now the other one,
36 is in the wars as well. Oh dear. The other retirement, just quickly to mention, the Ferrari that Thomas Flor crashed. Francesco Castellacci started it. Davide Rigon denied the opportunity to drive after Thomas Flor's accident, so it was out of the race with floor damage, one could say.
Very, very good.
Good night.
Very good.
He's here all week, tell your friend. This doesn't look at all promising, does it? This, I fear, could be exactly the same situation that the sister car had out on track.
Yeah, that's, you know, when you come in, you take the engine cover off. You know, at this level, when the cars are so reliable now and quick, as soon as you feel yourself as a driver being pushed back into the garage and the engine covers off, it's pretty much game over. I mean, you can go back out and circulate. And of course it's worth going back out, because actually, if you get lucky with the safety car, which bunches things back up again, that can put you in the mix. But the minute you go a lap down, you're not getting that lap back.
But in days of yore, you know, you could have a long pit stop, almost guaranteeing that somebody else would have a problem, and you could come back from it.
Yeah, maybe even when I first started doing Le Mans, sort of mid-2000s, yeah, that is the case, but it was the case, but certainly not now.
Wasn't there a year when Corvette was so far and so dominant ahead in GT, they parked them for nearly an hour or so and were able to come back out? The dominance was such, and the opposition had fallen apart to the extent that, you know, they could basically do a full service, clean the cars. They could have so much time in the pits.
Rub salt in the wounds of all the competitors.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, look at us, chaps. Yeah. Right, on track, let's have a quick word about LMP2, because Stefan Rakelmi now leads for Vector Sport. He's taken over from Ryan Cullen. Second is Lorenzo Fluxer for Cool Racing, and Bijoy Garg third in the sort of healthier United Autosports car. And in other news, Rob, your brother's not last anymore.
Yeah. I had a few messages from him. Yeah, he's not having a good day.
Is he not?
Yeah,
Imagine.
he's not having a good day. He's not feeling very well before the start of the race. They've had a bit of a torrid week.
Yeah.
Just getting, again, what we talked about earlier. They had a car that they felt was relatively quick, but it was just a handful to drive. And we've seen it, unfortunately, we've seen it on telly quite a bit, having strife, you know, going over curbs, etc. And it was just a handful in the slow speed stuff. So yeah, they're trying desperately just to carry on, get the experience, keep going, because you know that's what you do. You've got to get the car out there.
And off goes 24. That is David Heinemeier Hansson in replay, and others just clobbering the car. Oh, an open door. It's not just Porsche 963s from Proton. Even the Panis Racing entry can have the same sort of problem.
Yeah, you could see actually the top of that, the door just looked like it hadn't been shut properly.
Yeah.
But
well, the team are ready with a new door. So that's going to be an unscheduled pit stop, isn't it, for 65 to bring that in, because they can't really leave it out to the end of a stint, I wouldn't have thought.
I don't think so, no, absolutely. But we found this before in many cars. As a driver, sometimes you get out, or driver helper, get out and slam the door. It's actually the worst thing you can do. You should just shut it nice and calmly. Don't slam it, and it should be all right.
That is Hiroshi Koizumi off the road.
Strange one. He should really have just... That's at the chicane, isn't it? He should have just carried on, gone through the tires instead of driving through the gravel like that.
Yeah, bit of rallycross.
Indeed so. Right, Panis Racing are ready to receive 65. Who do we have in that car? Scott Huffaker, and in he is. So let's see what else they do. If it's an unscheduled stop, you've got to try and use that as best you can. So fuel, possibly tyres, will they change driver? We'll find out in a moment as he makes that long run up the pit lane. Gives you an idea of the length of the pit straight here.
I don't know how easy they are to change quickly. I know some of the GT cars, it's literally just on 2 pins. So you can open the door, pull it up, and that's it. It's in your hands, and you can swap it within a matter of 10 seconds or so.
Oh, it's just closed now?
Oh, no.
No.
That looks all right. Maybe it's just a bit of WD-40 on the latch. Let's see. There's no panic, is there?
No.
I think it's coming off, isn't it?
Let's have a look.
I guess.
Oh, you know, you're right. You've got the WD-40 out.
I guess at the end of the day, you've only got a certain amount of people who can come over the line to do the pit stop. So if you're doing fuel, you've got to have that element of people over the line.
Here we go. So this is how quick you can change a door.
Now we know.
Yeah. And while you're watching this, let me just quickly mention that Yeifei in the lead of the race has just done the cars, not the races, but the cars' best lap, a 3:29.9. That's only 7/10 off the best lap of the race. So now it's getting even cooler and possibly helping the engines. We might be on for happy hour soon and have some good laps. Now it's looking a little bit more of a scramble to do this operation, isn't it?
It is, and actually, yeah, this is not a quick, not their fault, of course, as pit crew, but this is not a quick change at all. But let's just, you know, they'll be just thinking, just get it out, and like I said, don't lose a lap. That is the key. Do not lose a lap.
So they're trying to fix the door and make sure that it will open, that it will close, and isn't going to pop open once again. What was that implement?
So I think that's the safety set, the safety structure that all cars have got to have for side protection.
Quite right. That slots into the door.
Yeah.
So it's not just put the door on; it's kind of build a door at the same time.
Yeah, I'm surprised that hasn't been pre-done. To be honest, I don't know why you'd have a door, a spare. I don't know why you'd have a spare door and a spare unit. You know, because that's no good to you. You should be
connect
on
part A to part B
before you're getting ready for the. There we go. Seems to have been fixed.
Absolutely.
Probably cost them what, 45 seconds to a minute.
We're also hearing that there are some spots of rain falling around Indianapolis. Thinking of cars with door problems, this was the one that had it early in the race and at Spa, the Proton Porsche. And the lead car, 83, you've just seen in the replay, coming to its pit box. And some images of the teams hard at work during the early part of the race, cleaning the screen. Drivers like Sebastian Bourdais here getting ready to jump back on board. and the drivers having to squeeze themselves into these narrow, tight cockpits. The Lexus that led its class LMGT3 early on, that car's now fallen away somewhat within the category.
Really impressed with the 83 Ferrari.
Yeah.
Sort of all week, it's not really been as quick as its teammates. You know, the factory cars, as in the red cars, as I would see them, have really been to the fore, and that's just been a little bit behind. And as that hit the front of the race, I, to be honest, expected the 50 and the 51 to swamp it, but actually it's held its own and is now putting in quicker laps.
Absolutely. The Aston Martin here from the D-Station team, which is a long way back now. Marco Sorensen has got to work his magic. The Aston Martin media team in the press office hoping for great fortunes because they have with them, and I kid you not here, their lucky baguette. Apparently every time Aston Martin has great success at Le Mans, they have this baguette that lives in the press room with them. It's not the same baguette year after year. It is a fresh one, although it's getting less fresh as the race goes on, but they believe it will bring them good luck.
They used to have a horn, French horn. Did you get the French horn?
Excuse me.
That was a trick of the light. It was an early morning thing, Rob.
12 minutes, we expect some light rain starting from after second chicane, Busan to Indy.
I can going back a conversation, I can understand Aston Martin and the lucky bread if you had Bertrand Baguette driving for you, but no other reason really.
Stop now.
I was
Stop.
hoping it doesn't get a stop and go penalty. I'm sure it'll slice through the field.
Boom.
Right, fine. Let's get back to the plot. Some great images in replay here of cars attacking different bits of the circuit, and that super slow-mo, which gives you a real indication of what the car goes through. Engineers hate these shots, don't they?
Yeah, they do kind of show off all the stuff that you don't want to see, the flex and body roll and tyre squeal, sidewalls really struggling. Yeah, you get all of that.
Right, the Iron Dames Lamborghini that lost time early on when it was Jaminade is good to go. It was Sarah Bovey, wasn't it, that
was driving
had the
and
incident,
changed.
and
Yes.
Michelle Gatting is on board.
But that's not just going back out again, though, is it?
No, that's its next
Sorry.
stop. It pitted afterwards, and that's the next scheduled pit stop, if you like. It went off the road, but it was lucky it didn't get into the gravel. So once Sarah had sort of caught her breath, she was able to get going again.
To be fair, you can't see much. The wheel arch is slightly rough, but there's not that much damage.
Right.
In fact, I think the Porsche came off worse.
Yes, I think that's a fair point, actually, because we've seen bits of it hanging off, and the Lamborghini has survived. It lost time, but it could have been a whole lot worse. So the car is back on track. LMGT3, Valentino Rossi leading Joel Sturm, as Tom Van Rompuy, who we also saw going through the gravel, walks away. Ricard Leitz is third on an outlap. Ian James in the Heart of Racing team, Aston fourth in LMGT3, the expat Brit. Then it's Francois Heriot and Darren Lung is sixth in his BMW. So the Iron Dames, therefore, 12th after that off. TF Sports Corvette. Still takes some getting used to saying that, doesn't it, after all the years Tom Ferrier had with Aston Martin, but away blasts the car.
Talking about horns, actually...
As you were.
I'm obsessed. Tom Ferrier has got the Corvette traditional train horn here.
Okay.
The dinner horn. Right. So we do hear that at 12 or 1 o'clock every day.
This is true.
Out on fresh tyres, of course.
That was close.
Nearly got hit in the back, didn't he, there? And that wasn't the Corvette driver's fault, was it?
No, he was just going out on fresh tyres. So he's cold.
Cold tyre, yeah.
He's got to overslow it. And the car's obviously, the Toyota there, just getting caught out, not expecting them to go that slow.
And there's good timing. You just dispatch 81 and in comes 82. So you don't need to double stack, but you have still got them pretty much on the same strategy. 82 is a little bit further back. Hiroshi Koizumi, after his trip through the gravel, has just brought that into the pit lane. There is 31 BMW, Darren Lung at the wheel of it. This is the car that's another kind of retro livery, not an art car like the hypercar, but a retro livery based on the Luigi Jeans colour scheme that ran here to 8th place back in 1977 when Spartaco Dini, Pierre Giordone, who is here running the operation, and Jean Zonceval were the drivers, and that is not a good sight either. That is the, well, it says Proton Competition, Orica. I was thinking that was more Iron Lynx livery, but it is the Proton Competition car, and it crawls to a halt, brings out a yellow. Who's at the wheel of that one?
Reed, I think.
You're quite right. Jonas Reed, son of team owner Christian Reed.
Yeah, lost power. Doesn't look like he's touched anything. It all looks in place and doesn't look like he's got any flat tires. So it's just purely loss of power.
So he'll try and do a kind of control-alt-delete, won't he, and get going, but...
Looks like his lights are off as well, so he's probably power cycling, isn't he? But that might be electrical rather than anything else, or he's just power cycling the car, which is, if you've got a problem, sort of control-alt-delete, turn everything off and see if it comes back to life again.
Fifth in LMP2, into the pit lane now comes the AO by TF entry of the team owner, which is PJ, Philip Jeffrey Hyatt, down the pit road. In this car known as Spike the Dragon for its colour scheme. And on board in number 7 Toyota now, Jose Maria Lopez at the wheel, and he's on the back of Norman Nato. He's alongside Norman Nato, and he's going to go through as they get into the braking zone for the chicane. Nicely done. So Toyota gains a spot. Yellow flags out on the pit side of the circuit, but on the other side of the circuit, everything is looking pretty good and fast. Toyota looking very good indeed at the moment.
Sarah Beauvue, you got out of the 85 car, a difficult one.
Yeah, I mean, all in all, the beginning of the race was pretty good, and the job was done by everybody. A bit unfortunate to have the contact in the Porsche corner. Obviously, I knew the prototype was on my left, but I think there was just not enough room left, and the GT cars, we are moving a little bit there. It's every lap like that. The rear's moving a little bit, and unfortunately, we had a contact. Luckily, it looks like the car is not too much damage. We just lost a little bit of time restarting the car, but yeah, it's never fun. But I'm glad that at the end we don't have too serious damage. And now Michi is in the car, and I hope we can have a quieter race.
Now tell me about all the post-its here behind you.
Yeah, it's we are so proud to carry this project, to carry the dream of all those kids and all of our fans. Yeah, it's a true privilege, to have this with us, and yeah, we just want to fight till the end to show that when you dream it strong enough, everything is possible.
Good for you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Around the outside, and you see the damage on the side of the Porsche, and as Peter rightly says, that's in its pit box now, having that damage sorted, because if it's damaged any of the lights and the lighting in the number panels, that's got to be sorted out for the night part of the race.
Yep.
And rain is expected, and we understand from Louise Beckett in the pits that there is rain starting to fall. So rain and dark, the perfect combination, not. And there in the replay was the external view. That's the damage to the Porsche. And look, off comes the number and that panel.
And they'll have to fix that wheel arch, that rear wheel arch as well. Well, I think they just taped it up, which I think is acceptable in the rules.
If the scrutineers are happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To be honest, I thought that interview would be a little bit more fiery. She was maybe had it been, 30 minutes ago, then it would have been more fiery. She's calmed down since, but yeah, you could see by her steering wheel she had a little snap of oversteer, and I think Yamini was too close regardless, but yeah, she sort of moved with the snap of oversteer, and he was just at that point on the outside.
The teams are being warned that rain is due in 4 minutes. We understand already, as I say, there are spots falling. This is a rather sorry sight, isn't it? Because number 9 being pushed away is looking like its day might well be done. That slow zone then, just neutralising that one section of the circuit. You have to slow, you can't overtake, of course. It allows the race to carry on, albeit under controlled conditions, while the marshals move that car out of the way.
And any car that needs to do a pit stop around this time, of course, can potentially gain some time.
Yeah, it's not quite as bad, therefore, for number 4 Porsche, is it? It's lost time, granted, but it could have lost more had it been a completely green lap.
Of course, if you do need to make a stop now, what's your what time are you getting on?
Very good point. very good point. Number 6 Porsche, you just saw there skipping over the curb. Kevin Estre running in 9th place. That wasn't even on an outlap. That was a mistake by Kevin Estre.
I think what we saw earlier was people going on a soft slick seemed to be like the go-to for
I think you risk it as much as you can. Obviously, they've got, as you touched on earlier, they've got their weather predictions. They've got, usually each team has got someone who's watching that all the time with the radar, etc. So they sort of know pretty much what's coming. We saw that Ferrari called it perfectly, but Toyota made a mistake of it last time. So it looks like he sort of bailed. But is it wet there? Is it raining a little bit, and that's why that happened?
Possibly.
Yeah, you can see the rain falling down. So yeah, I think he just got caught out a little bit too late on the brakes. Slightly damp conditions.
He was also right on the tail of the number 2 Corvette of Alex Palou, and perhaps a break too late as well, has been caught out by the wet. Anyway, Estre will recover from that, no doubt. So now we not only have to worry about race order and pit stops and tyres, we also have to try guessing which set of headlights we're looking at as the cars head towards the different parts of the circuit. We'll be experts by the dawn. Number 6 Porsche then, Kevin Estre, you're on board with him?
Or you think it's difficult for us? Think about the GT drivers who are out there and they've got these big bright lights coming towards them, and it's very difficult to then tell how far away they are.
And indeed, which set of lights are you fighting against? Do I let that car by, or is that in my class?
Yeah.
Right, into the pit lane comes 50. Out of second place then, Miguel Molina. Spots of rain on that camera lens as well. So darkness and rain. Oh, joy.
We do have different coloured headlights, though, don't we still? That was always a thing, but it used to be GT, yellow, and P1, or hypercars it is now, would be white. So they've got some idea, but it's just the closing speed. It's so hard to judge when it's just 2 dazzling lights behind you.
And you, as a GT driver, are trying to drive your own race, not spend all of it looking in the mirror waiting for the next and the next and the next car.
Okay, that looks like proper rain down there now. That's Indianapolis, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes, umbrellas are up, and the road has got a completely different sheen to it, so absolutely wet. Right, this is going to be lively,
so
isn't it?
that Ferrari that's in the pits, they look like they were putting another set of slicks on it.
Might not be the right gamble, therefore. Heavy rain reported at Marshall's post 30. Quick look out of the window, what do we see? No brollies up over here yet, so it's possibly heading our way. And, of course, here, coming out of the run towards the Porsche curves, you're approaching a slow zone. And we understand that slicks are still being put onto cars in the most recent round of stops, so
Maxime Martin just got into the Team WRT BMW and put slicks on.
It's all right, he lives near Spa. He'll be used to these conditions. Won't phase him, will it, Rob?
No, not at all. Not at all.
So they're the soft ones, they are, aren't they? They're white. Are they white walled?
Oh.
Well, it's medium that's come off.
We'll be able to tell on our...
We'll check in a minute.
Any minute now.
Yeah. So the team's trying to work out what's the best option. Cadillac think it's wet.
So still dry there?
Yeah. And
same situation as last time, isn't it? Part of the track's dry, part of it's wet.
Yeah. So that's Nicholas Nielsen, who is on an outlap, and the weaving was to try and get some warmth in the tyres.
So if this is a 2-car team, 2-car factory effort, do you send one out on one strategy and one out on another? Is that a thing just to cover everything off?
Probably yes. And in a way, you've got a third option, haven't you? Because AF Corsa run these cars. AF Corsa runs the Kubica Schwarzman Yayef entry. You know, it's a Ferrari in all but the factory tag. So you've always got that as well as a backup.
Yeah.
And a little bit of a twist as well. You've got Nicholas Nielsen just left the pits. When we had our last rainfall, it was him in the car then as well.
Yes,
so he cycled,
right.
and he felt, right, okay, good, I'm out of the car. That was quite stressful. He's got straight back into the car, straight into the rain again, but at least he knows what he's doing.
Straight back into more stress.
Yes, Rain Man, Nicholas Nielsen almost. Yeah, so you put him in the car.
That's a lot of rain, yeah.
It is. Oh, you can tell off the engine note, can't you? And it's a lot heavier than it was before. This is what has been predicted for days, and it's finally come, I think.
So they've got, yeah, they've got the wet tyres. So it could be they got super lucky earlier on or made the right call, but they might have made the wrong call this time.
What we might also start seeing now, more people going off the road, because depending on your level of bravery and how warm the tyres are, I mean, Nicholas Nielsen now on an outlap, on slicks, and on an increasingly wet road. He might be coming back in.
So number 2, when that fueling stops, yep, I think they're going to put the wets on.
Yep. Okay, so number 2, 8th at the moment. Let's see, and the Porsches are in as well. Look, that is number 6 and number 4. The Cadillac might vault up the order as a legacy of this. We've got a yellow at Marshall's, post 25 now.
Pure timing, isn't it? It's literally 5 minutes difference, and you know, you've not quite called it right, and yeah, slows. I mean, that helps Nicholas Nielsen to stay on his slick tyres.
The slow zone.
Yeah, because then he's not going to lose time through that zone to the wet shod cars.
But when he's going slower, he's not getting heat into them.
True.
That is a big thing, because if you're out there in these conditions, if there's no standing water and you've got a hot tyre on, actually it's sometimes not too bad. But if you go out on a cold tyre or have to go in a slow zone or safety car, whatever, and they get cold, it can cost you then 20-30 seconds a lap round here.
And he's on an outlap, so there's not that much temperature in them. So,
isn't it?
Yeah. And we understand the rain's going to stop in 5 minutes.
Wow.
Allegedly.
Yeah.
Right, into the pit lane anyway comes the race leader. Yayefei is in.
I'm glad I'm here. Saturday. It's not raining in here.
Lovely and warm in here.
There's no stress. You don't have to worry about what shoes to put on or anything, do you? The settings are good for the end of the race. So slow zone, that is why everybody's going slowly. You can see how much energy there is in the cars in that leading order. And this is the view on board with Nicholas Nielsen. 95 in the gravel. I did suggest a moment ago.
You want to go backwards, mate.
Yeah.
Okay, come on.
That's Hiroshi Hamaguchi, the Japanese driver. I did suggest we might have cars going off the road now. It's happening, isn't it?
It's suddenly got very dark as well, with that cloud over the top of us.
Hamaguchi gets away, and Valentino Rossi, having brought 46 into the lead of the class out of the car, he will be able to have a word in a moment with Louise Beckett, because Louise has caught up with Valet in the pit lane.
Valentino Rossi bringing in the 46 WRT BMW. That was an awesome run from you.
Grazie, thank you. I enjoy a lot. It was my first stint, so I have a bit of pressure, but you know, I feel good with the car. We are not the fastest on the track, unfortunately, but we have a good pace. We are quite constant. Also, with the used tire, we can keep the pace, and the car give good feedback also in the fast part. Also, you know, this condition that is a little bit wet like this, but it's good. We are very happy until now, because anyway we can fight for the podium. This was the target. Now it's a little bit early for understand. Looks like that the Porsche is very strong, but we are there.
You've been to Le Mans before, obviously, but how is this one for you as a rookie in the 24 Hours of Le Mans?
It's great. It's a great feeling, because it's a special race. It's a special track. You have a lot of different cars on the track, so you have to manage a lot of things, and also you enjoy when you drive, because it's very fast. You are always fast, and it's good.
Good to hear it. Thank you.
Grazie. Thank you. Ciao.
Away with him, because he is enjoying this. It's not easy, but he's signed up for the long haul and he is enjoying it.
Yeah, I've never heard him any sound anything other than that, to be honest. A lot of cars off now.
Yeah.
Just missing the braking points and sliding straight on.
Down at the first chicane on the Mulsanne straight, slippery surface flag out as well. As you see there, 99 Porsche go through, trying to recover after its earlier delay. Jean-Eric Verne is under investigation in Peugeot 93 for slow zone infringements. Neil Jani is up to 20th place in number 99, but the downside is that the car is still the best part of 4 laps down, which you're never going to get back. On board with Nicholas Nielsen then, who is running in 3rd spot in number 50 Ferrari, and he's trying to find a reference point. Comes through the chicane.
He's super gentle on
Isn't
the car.
he? But he's on slicks, don't forget.
He's on slicks, on probably the dampest part of the track right now.
Bit braver here, but no, that was very cautious through the chicane.
It's
Wasn't
such a difficult thing to know. Like, you're on a straight here, and do you say, well, yeah, I can go flat, but one little spin up on the rear at high speed, and you're going around, and you're going in the wall, and you're probably going out the race.
It feels so slow when you're in there, though. You feel like, oh, I'm braking way too early here. But then you still get to the corner, and as we saw, he actually struggled to get around with any sort of pace at all.
Toyota on wets, easily overtaking.
So that's Hirakawa going by.
Is this payback for the earlier bit of luck or good judgment from Ferrari? And this time, well, to be fair to them, he was the first of the front cars to pit during that rainstorm, and they just didn't quite forecast how. But then again, you know, we've got to get to the end of the stint. If he stays out and it dries, you might see him come back, and those cars on wet tires need to stop.
There's quite a lot more rain in a lot more places now, though.
I agree. But they had that pit stop
it's
just before it started to set in.
Heavily.
It's horrible here. Absolutely horrible.
He's surviving now.
Now, is Nielsen going to risk another lap? Or is he going to come in? There'll be some radio traffic in the system, but on this part of the circuit, this is not a nice car to drive, is it?
No, there's lots of short shifting going on. Everything he's doing gently. He doesn't want to hit the brakes hard. He wants to hit the brakes gradually and gently. When he's picking up the throttle pedal rather than slamming it on like you can in the dry, he's really, really feathering it on. That's really, he's doing a good job. Whoa, that looks horrible.
Jenson Button under investigation for a possible slow zone procedural infringement. Wets standing by in number 50 garage, Nicholas Nielsen's garage.
Yeah, he's not far from the pits now.
No.
So
let's see what he does.
Kind of looks like he's not going to pit this lap.
It's so tippy-toey, though, as you've been saying. He's up the curb, which is treacherous and wet, and he can't just bury his foot on the throttle. Comes up to the end of the lap, then he's approaching that imposing Module Sportif building in the distance. And there are cars ahead, the pit lane beckons, he stays out.
Hang on a minute, was that not yellow? Why did he looked to be catching those cars awful quickly.
Well, it says green flag on the timing screen, no yellows shown. I think that was just a very nervous Am in the GT3 car.
See.
Oh. This is brave, really brave.
Yes. This could go down in you know, YouTube history of being some of the best onboard wet weather motoring, like Glenn Seaton's Bathurst 1987 efforts. But right now, that's the order. But all eyes on this fourth-placed Ferrari. Nicholas Nielsen at the wheel of it. That last lap was a 4:27. So slicks on a wet road is about a minute a lap slower than the absolute fastest lap.
Well, there you go. Well, pit stop is done in that time, right?
Yeah.
And what we saw earlier, when teams and cars did lose that time with putting the wrong tyre on, they didn't make it back quickly at all. This could be watching, you know, the point where they lose the race.
This is the other Ferrari that also is on slicks and is hemorrhaging places and time. So at the moment, both of the factory Ferraris look to be in real trouble because they're on the wrong tyres.
But the 83 came in and stopped. What's the 83 car on? I'm guessing they've put wets on.
Robert Kubica got back on board it, I can tell you that much. Looking to see whether Giovinazzi's going to come in.
Wet tyres,
Yeah, they're
wets on 83.
They're on the right tyre again. Wow.
And yet, you know, it's AF Corsa across all cars. Right, Ferrari in, and that's 51, isn't it? Except those aren't wets. 51 is in. Antonio Giovinazzi is in, and we await to see what genius idea they're going to come up with for tyres, but the obvious answer is wet.
Well, if I'm the driver, I'm really hoping that the engineer comes on the radio and says we're putting wets on. You know, the last thing you want to hear is you're putting slicks on. And why would you take the slicks off if they've got some element of heat into them? You're just going to put a cold slick on. Although
a cold soft slick, a cold soft slick. So was he due a stop anyway? That was only lap 9 as far as I can see.
So that's too soon by about 3 laps. 12 laps to a stint is what they should be targeting. But what was he on when he came in? Mediums?
Mediums, yeah.
Okay, so if you put softs on and the rain goes away, it's a kind of halfway house for a few laps, and then hopefully, if the rain's not going to last for much longer, you might be okay.
They're convinced, aren't they? I mean,
yeah.
I guess on the radio they're talking to Nicholas Nielsen, saying, it's okay, mate, it's okay, just like last time, just survive and it'll dry up.
It's fascinating, though, this, isn't it? And the relationship you as a driver have to have with the engineer. And, you know, do you trust him? Does he go with what you want? The dialogue at high speed to try and come up with the right answer. It really is very, very interesting indeed. It underlines the teamwork.
Here is taking it easy, though. He's not flat down there. He's not taking any big risks.
You can understand why, can't you? Slicks on a wet road.
All you've got to do is be on a downshift on that white line, and if your rear wheels just snag for a second, that's it. You can just be turned around so quickly.
Yeah. No, Nielsen has been looking impressive in the way that he's driven the car in far from ideal conditions.
Very, 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 just mature. Very, very good way.
Let's hope I'm not putting a sort of curse on him by saying this, but the very, very successful Ferrari GT star. It looks really wet on that part of the run, doesn't it, from Arnage up to the Porsche curves, like horribly wet.
So we get an idea this time on lap time, if it's any quicker than his last one, 4:27.
Toyota looking concerned. Let's go on board with Nicholas Nielsen and eavesdrop to the conversation.
It's raining on the backstretch still.
Yeah, another one more lap, it's raining, and now it will decrease. Just survive and stay out, we'll be okay.
Survive for one more lap.
That was what I thought he might say, survival.
Yeah. And Hiroshi Hamaguchi's McLaren has a 20-second penalty to serve at the next pit stop for an unsafe rejoin and a big lose there. That is number 30, the Duquesne team, Orica, which so nearly got T-boned in that spin. And it was John Falb at the wheel of it. And another one spins into the pit lane. That's 37, which means that it's the Cool Racing Fluxer Jakobsen Miotoma car. Fluxer brought it in and spun in the pit lane.
So, yeah, going back to the 50, he's losing about 30 seconds a lap at the moment. So if he stays out, he's going to lose best part of 2 minutes, but then he hasn't got to stop again. Potentially, if it doesn't rain again.
Well, yeah, and that's what they're banking on.
But that still for me is a net loss.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it might be slightly different for the 51 car, but same difference, really. Really, they should have just called it early and split the strategy, as you said. Get one car on wets, one on slicks.
Yellow flag, Marshall's post 26, which is Arnage. You're riding on board here with Robert Kubica. He's on wets. And there's a lot more commitment, understandably, and he's able to push a lot more in this car than we've seen in the factory Ferraris on their slick rubber. There's a yellow at 17 Marshall's post now, and it's been removed at Arnage, so whoever went up the escape road has got away with it. This is where Robert Kubica needs to make the most of the wet tyres on the wet road and try and stretch that gap.
About to put a lap on that other Ferrari in front, is that right? What is that?
Yeah. It's a Ferrari. I think it's 51, isn't it? I can't quite see.
Or is it the 50?
It will be 51, I think, Giovinazzi on an outlap.
Yeah, on an outlap, yeah.
Who's further down the order.
Of course, on an outlap on new tyres.
Yeah. So that puts 83 a lap ahead of the factory car. Let's listen to Kubica's traffic.
So, and the update question.
At the moment your pace looks good. 51 in front of you, just exited pits on new softs.
It was cutting.
Car 51 in front just exited the pits on new softs.
So that car is just overtaken. Was on new softs, so warm wets versus cold new softs, advantage wets.
Yeah, it is at the moment. I mean, I guess if it doesn't rain again, that car might well come storming past you, but he's put a lap on him. You know, the risk element as well, you've got more risk.
This is on board number 60, which is the Iron Lynx Lamborghini that charges the wall. That's a big hit. And that's done some front damage to the Lamborghini, and it was Claudio Schiavone, part of the Iron Lynx management that has been at the wheel of it, and a full course yellow is called for. That's our second one, isn't it? And so at 22.09, full course yellow for number 60. He was caught out by the rain, wasn't he?
Yeah, but yes,
is
absolutely.
He on, what is he on, tyre-wise?
Not too sure, but a lot of steam coming out of that. I do wonder if there's sort of radiators at that end of the car. I wonder if he's popped some, pipes will have come off. It might be spewing liquid, so that might actually stop that car's race.
Yeah, I think you're probably right in that. So now you can see there, number 50, Nicholas Nielsen. He's trying to get warmth in the tyres. There's debris on the road in the darkness as well. Very brave Marshall, legs it out, and is thankfully able to pick up the enormous bit of bodywork.
Easy.
Stay. Hang on a minute, chap. Yes, let the cars go, and then you can do your next bit of bravery. But I know that sometimes the camera foreshortens that, but that was a bit close.
I don't like seeing that at all. It scares me, yeah. Don't like that.
Let's listen in again to number 60.
Gearbox is not going.
Gearbox is not going. Probably a legacy of the car being charged into the barrier. That would have done the gearbox a lot of good, one fears.
Did it connect on the rear as well, or is it just on the front?
I think it did a bit to the back as well. So Iron Links, Iron Dames Garage, they've also lost the LMP2 car they have a connection to, the number 9 Proton entry that stopped a little while ago and caused that slow zone. Now it's Lamborghini number 60 is in the wall. So it's all starting to unravel a bit for Iron Links / Iron Dames. On board with Nicholas Nielsen. So full course yellow means you slow all the way around the lap. That does tyre heat no good at all.
No, but it also negates the fact that he's on the wrong tyre. So actually, he'll be sitting there now thinking this is fantastic for me.
Because a full course yellow is better than a slow zone.
Correct.
Yes.
For him.
Exactly right. Yes.
Not
yes.
for the competitors who are on wets.
We did see a little while ago number 36 Alpine in its garage, and we feared, didn't we, Rob, that it might be a repeat of 35. 36 has been retired, so both Alpines gone.
Okay.
Before 11 p.m. So one assumes that was an engine-related drama as well, but it's out of the race.
I think prior to the race itself, I think they pretty much knew that their engines were their weakest point, and that if the car was going to go, it would be engine-related.
This is Claudio Schiavone trying to rejoin.
Oh, okay.
If you can drag it back, then we'll see what they can do, but this is not an easy operation.
Remove the gearbox emergency. Remove the gearbox emergency. Okay, I'm now trying to shift down.
So the engineer talking Claudio Schiavone through the process of trying to circumnavigate the gearbox drama. The race direction team looking on. We're still under full course yellow, so everybody goes slowly. Therefore, there's less risk to Schiavone, to other drivers, and should we require them on track, the marshals. But
the thing is as well, the people on wet tyres, even if the track dries, they're negated. So I think the net loss is to the two AF Corse Ferraris in this, no matter how you look at it.
I think it is overall, absolutely. But as it stands at the moment with a full course yellow, it's helping them, as in they're not hemorrhaging time right now on track.
And we don't know how long this full course yellow is going to last for, and we don't know what the next bit of weather is going to be, whether it's worsening rain or it's drying out. Here, Ford chicane, that doesn't look too bad, does it?
Yeah, you're right. But so as each lap passes, or you get closer and closer to the end of your stint, and everyone has to stop anyway, and then you make your choice on what tyre you go on.
Don't you love races like this? No, say two drivers. Absolutely
I used to hate it. Absolutely.
You got no sense of adventure, Rob.
No, none.
Right, full course yellow, our second of the race, as the drivers then come over the line. Race order, just to confirm, 83 Ferrari, Robert Kubica leads. Second, number 5 Porsche has crept up there, almost unnoticed, Fred Makovici at the wheel. And third, number 8 Toyota of Ryo Hirakawa. Fourth, number 50 Ferrari, Nicholas Nielsen. Fifth is number 6 Porsche. Also, that car has suddenly come alive. Laurens Vanthoor is at the wheel, the start driver 6th, number 12, Jota Porsche, Norman Nato. 7th, number 2, Cadillac, Alex Palou. 8th, number 7, Toyota, Nick de Vries. 9th, number 38, Hertz Team Jota Porsche, Jensen Button. And in 10th place, 311, Cadillac, Pipo Derani. In 11th, Dries Van Voor's BMW. 12th, Sebastian Bourdais Cadillac. 13th, we go green, incidentally, Antonio Giovinazzi's Ferrari. 14th and 15th, the Lamborghini hypercars of Daniel Kvyat and Matteo Cairoli. Matteo Jaminet is down in 16th place after the damage sustained, and he has dropped a lap. Right now, we are the leading 12 on the lead lap. That's all. We're back to race conditions, but we also have a yellow flag at Marshall's post 33, which is at the very end of the lap.
Yeah, just after the Porsche curbs.
All right, Nicholas Nielsen still persevering on the slicks. Let's listen in.
I lost everything on the tires, mate. I don't have anything.
Yeah, we know. We are checking.
Lost everything under the tyres, all the grip,
tyre
warmth.
Temp, yeah, I would imagine. Tyre temp. You know what you can do as a driver in that scenario is under safety, full course yellow. Yes, you can't go fast, but you can keep your foot, you know, riding the brake a little bit just to keep warmth through the rim of the wheel, which then, you know, finds its way into the tyre as well.
That's the replay of Schiavone, getting it wrong, losing it, charging the barriers, and he has got going again. Hence, we've gone back to green flag conditions, and that was how it was seen from behind. Big whack, external view.
Traction control not catching that one.
Oh, you're right.
I mean, the other thing is he's exited the corner with just a little bit too much lock on. He should just try and straighten that wheel out and use all the track available.
But it's an odd place to go off that. You don't often see cars at that point. Further round, maybe, but not there.
Yeah,
anyway.
Yeah. As Peter said, if you've got, you know, a bit too much throttle on slicks, on wets, you can lose it anywhere, pretty much, to be honest. True.
I am with Pierre Alves at Michelin here under the tent where all the tires are being prepared. Pierre, can you just tell us about the process here under the workshop?
So here there is no surprise, you know, we receive at the moment used tires that have been used by all the cars, the hypercar. And after here we are taking the old tire, the used tire, and we fit a new one, so to fit the tires on the machine. And after we inflate them up to 6 bars maximum, to the tire to be in the right position, and after we are balancing it to make sure that there is no vibration when the tire is on the car.
Okay, now the weather is just changing. We've seen some rain coming in. So how does it change the strategy of work for you and for the teams?
So for Michelin, you know, we're working very closely with every car manufacturers in hypercar. So we have everything ready all the time in the garages. So we have the slicks, the 2 compounds, the 3 compounds available, and also the wets. And we see that now the conditions are changing. So probably the team's going to request to fit a little bit more wet tires than expected.
Can you tell us what strategy and what team are doing right now? I guess not.
Yeah, it's quite, you know, it's always easier to know which strategy it was the best after, because before, you know, it's a gamble also from the driver. So now I think we saw that the drivers have choose to use wet tires because we have quite a lot of rain and water standing on the water on the racetrack.
Okay, well, thank you very much for that, and we're going to catch up later to see how the race comes back.
Thank you very much.
The 2024 Le Mans 24 hours and contact there. That was 23. Oreca being turned around by Maxime Martin.
Yeah, you've got a situation like that where Martin, I don't know who's driving the P2 car,
Ben Hanley.
Okay, he's a good driver, but perhaps he's on slicks and Martin's on wets, and he's just got more grip. And you know, the P2 driver's not expecting a GT driver to come back at him like that.
Sure. So Maxime Martin hits 23, number 60 goes into the garage.
A bit clumsy by Martin, might have to say. You know,
he's not like him, that.
You know, you know it's wet. You know some people on slicks. You can clearly see the car in front struggling, and he's just rammed him, basically.
James Cottingham is under investigation for a full course yellow possible infringement. James Cottingham, another of the Le Mans rookies this year. Let's listen to Kubica's radio messages again.
I don't know what to do. Probably temperature.
Yeah, no problem. Keep pushing, keep going.
A gearbox alarm then for Robert Kubica, the race leader. The team say keep pushing.
Engineer didn't seem that fussed.
No, and presumably they'll have telemetry, they'll be able to identify what that problem is, and if they don't think it's an issue, crack on.
You sometimes have parameters for the alarm to come on that are a little bit unrealistic, so it's overcautious, but actually what it does is means that everyone's aware of it. There's probably a big light flashing on the telemetry now, but then they can look into it further and go, actually, it's only 3 degrees above the parameter we set it at, so actually we're all right, which sounded that they were basically saying, okay mate, crack on, thanks for letting us know.
Bit worried again about the 99 Proton Porsche, with work being done underneath. That lost laps early on with the pesky door, remember? And back to the garage it goes. Carl Watana-Bennett also under investigation, the Isotta driver for a full course yellow possible infringement. That's number 7 Toyota, 8th Nick de Vries, one of the 18 ex-Formula 1 drivers on the grid. Next time we have a full course yellow, we can play name all 18. Kill a lap or two.
I think I get 5. 6. Although there is a massive chart behind you with all the names on, so I'd have to look at that.
Now, 311 is Pipo Derani. What's he doing for tyres?
How do you think the tires are? Can we go to slicks? Can we go to slicks?
I'm thinking a couple of laps, maybe.
Copy.
2 laps away from slicks then.
So the only hypercars on slicks are the 50 and the 51. Everyone else is on wets.
4 days just put slicks on.
Okay. But from what we've just heard from Pipo Derani, the road is starting to shift back to slicks.
Yeah.
So the time lost, they might be able to get back. The really interesting one in all of this is going to be Giovinazzi, because he needs to get back on the lead lap somehow, doesn't he?
So when you're in that situation, I think sometimes you can throw the dice, you can take the risky calls because you've got nothing to lose.
Yeah. But the reason they're in that position is because they made a risky call.
Yeah, they threw the dice at the wrong time.
Yeah, well, you may as well carry on.
Well,
all your chips are in, then you may
You've got to win sometime.
Double down.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be interesting, as I say, to see what the chances are of that car getting back onto that lead lap. We'll come back to that in a moment. Let's listen to Bourdais.
Okay, Seb, set your bars, set your bars.
Talking about the roll bars there, each car's got the ability to soften off the roll bars. Cool conditions or hot, if it's a well gripped up track, you might run a stiffer bar, but in a wet condition or when it's a bit slidey, you'd have a softer bar to help you gain some more grip. And obviously it's still a bit damp out there, so it might be soft at the moment, but as the track dries, he'll be able to stiffen the car up.
On track, Giovinazzi is coming out of the second chicane, as coming through Mulsanne corner is the lead car. That's the amount of real estate that Giovinazzi's got to get back and then overtake to put himself on the lead lap. So we need to start looking at lap times soon, between 83 and then 51, to see if he's catching.
Yeah, I'm just looking at Nicholas Nielsen last time around, 3:56. And okay, I think we had a bit of yellow in during that time as well. Did we? Maybe not, but...
no, we did, you're right.
The fastest car on wets was 3:50, was it? Yeah, or 3:49.
Getting replays of more people going off the road.
That's a close one. Oh, you've just about got away with that.
Did it. Well done. Right, so last time, Robert Kubica did a 3:52, and Giovinazzi a 3:56 on his slick tyres. So it's still advantage to the wets at the moment, but that might well shift.
One more lap, it might change.
But as I say, not only has Giovinazzi got to have the road come to him, then he's got to be lapping quicker than Kubica, and he's got to pass him. He's got to somehow get that lap back. That's the really interesting point for the next half an hour or so. What progress he can make.
And the thing is, we're coming close to the end of the stint anyway, where they have to change tyres. So, yeah, Ferrari have definitely lost out from this.
The factory Ferrari, yeah.
The 50, the
yes,
51.
yes.
The 50, I think the 83 is just going to, if he can just do another 2 or 3 laps on these wets and then box and go to slicks, it's like perfect.
Yeah.
Could not have called it better.
No, indeed. Yellow at Marshall's post 25, and that's the reason, because off the road is Bourdais. Now he's on slicks, he's just gone onto slicks.
Cold slicks, yes.
Thankfully, he's managed to hook up reverse and the car isn't beached, so he's able to quite quickly get back on the road.
So that's Indianapolis, slick tyres, catching out Sebastian Bourdais. So we'd heard from another Cadillac driver the road was about 2 laps away from being slicked. Bourdais went early, if you like, and this is how he got there, Peter.
Oh, he's got super lucky there.
Has he ever?
Well, apart from not being beached, he's not in the wall either.
Whoa, look at that. Let's listen in.
Yeah, I'm sorry,
You're all right, man. You're all right.
Yeah, lucky not to get beached, lucky not to hit anything. Save of the day,
Or have anyone hit him, because there's a car just behind as well.
Anyway, he's back on track, and the bespectacled Frenchman then, study of concentration, tries to make amends. That car, don't forget, has also fallen off the lead lap. And that will not have helped life either with that slow lap time just put in. 311 has just pitted Pipo Derani, so I wonder whether they are going to put that on slicks, having just seen Bourdais not quite get it right.
I think the right call now is, though, if you're pitting, it's got to be a soft slick.
Yeah, because the road is coming to you.
Regardless of whether you've seen people fall off or not.
Sure.
Yeah.
Number 5, Porsche, which was second, has now pitted and drops down accordingly. Slicks again. Wets off, slicks on.
Yeah, soft compound.
But Porsche going on to wets, again, that's worked in their favour because we've seen number 5 and number 6 both get back up towards the pointy end of the order. So, yes, Ferrari, certainly with 51, has been the big loser. 50, it's still there or thereabouts in 4th, but 51 losing a lap in this stint, that's been the big loser.
Yeah, but car 50 is 1 minute 50 down.
It is. It is.
But I don't think we've seen the last of dodgy rain, dodgy conditions. So, you know, I think this is where you've just got to keep your head as a driver, keep your head as an engineer. Yeah, we've talked about rolling the dice, but maybe don't do it too much. And, yeah, stick to your guns, and hopefully the race will come back to you.
Maxime Martin, Ben Hanley both being looked at for that incident we saw a little while ago. More bail for the pit lane on an ever-drying circuit now. So, again, a reasonably short, sharp shower, wetting different parts of the circuit to differing levels, giving the pit lane, the drivers, everybody really, a total headache of what to do. Heading up there, look through the Dunlop chicane onto the Dunlop S's. I didn't realise until Friday when I ran around this place just how banged that section of the circuit is, but when you're going very slowly, you're aware of it.
Yes, and very quick.
Yes.
When you're going very quickly, you're very much aware of it.
Right, Nick de Vries down towards the chicane and to the pit lane. The Toyota is 8th on this in-lap, so cycle through for another set of soft slicks, we presume. Also in is Jenson Button behind him. And Mathieu Jaminet, number 4. So that car, after being involved with the Iron Dames Lamborghini, has lost a big chunk of time. It's off the lead lap and down in 16th place. The number of cars on the lead lap has really dwindled in this last hour.
So what are we down to? 12, did he say? 12 on the lead lap, is that correct?
It was 12. We're down to 11 now. And that's slightly corrupted because of these pit stops for the moment. Slicks for Toyota. That car's not, as I said earlier on, it hasn't come storming through from the back of the hypercar grid as one might have anticipated, but it's still in the mix. Well, we're down to and it will rejoin still with Nick de Vries and the wheel of it, slightly because of these pit stops for the moment. Former Slicks for Toyota, Formula 1 driver. It's another one to add to your list. Car's not, as I said earlier on, it hasn't come storming through from the back of the hypercar grid as one might have anticipated, but it's still in the mix. And it will rejoin.
So they could not have timed it any better.
I mean, yeah, they are just going perfectly right now. And good stints by Kubica, who's going to stay in the car, by Robert Schwarzman, by Ye Yifei, as Martin Haven was saying earlier on, the Chinese driver who is the real deal, was very good in single-seaters, but has really stood out in sports car racing. Now, drive-throughs to the Isotta, and also James Cottingham's McLaren for full-course yellow infringements.
Kubica's stopped early, though.
How many laps did he do?
Lap 7.
OK, now that is early.
So he's done 7 laps, so he's probably lap 8.
But 12 to a stint, yeah, it is in much earlier. But if the road is drying, then he perhaps needs to bail.
And the good thing is that they're keeping him in the car as well, so the driver who's going out doesn't have to have the 50-50 scenario. He knows where the wet patches are, he knows where the dry is, where to take a risk and where not. So it's good that they've kept the same. Oh, he's just as I say that, he drives off the track.
In from second place, now number 8, Ryo Hirakawa, who doesn't feel like he's been in it for that long. Blast away. This might be the same thing, that the wets were just losing their edge and they had to shorten the stint.
Yeah, exactly the same. He's done 7 laps, so lap 8 for him.
So it's a tyre-induced pit stop, that, not with in terms of a puncture, but just we're on the wrong set. We need to change because we're going to hemorrhage time. Okay.
So Nicholas Nielsen moves back to second place, but of course, in about 3 or 4 laps time, he's going to have to pit as well.
Yes. And also Giovinazzi goes back on the lead lap, but he's owing us a pit stop as well. So that car will...
Not as. So he's on lap 6 right now. So he's halfway through his stint.
Yeah.
So if he can make up the time now with a hot tyre and pull far enough ahead of the guys just coming out on these cold slicks, then he could potentially bring himself back onto the lead lap.
The last lap of Kubica, which I know is a bit of a road because he came into the pit lane, was a 3:58. So in terms of competitive amounts of the lap, it would be a little bit less than that, whereas Giovinazzi's last lap was a 3:47. So the first flying lap for Kubica relative to Giovinazzi's pace will be very revealing indeed. This is the orders scrolling through on the screens all at the moment. You can see the leading car in LMGT3 is number 46 BMW. Maxime Martin under this Damocletian investigation for the contact with Ben Hanley. LMP2 is being led by the Vector Sport number 10 Orica that Ryan Cullen has been keeping at the pointy end of that class. Stefan Rakelmi is in it, and Patrick Pilet is the third driver. Second in the class, Malte Jakobsen for Cool Racing, and third, Bijoy Garg for United Autosports.
Yeah, I think we're going to see Maxime Martin's going to get a penalty for that, isn't he? He's going to get some form of drive-through.
I think so, yeah. So that's the classification. Only 3 confirmed retirements. 1 Ferrari out of LMGT3 and both of the Alpine hypercars. And for both of them to have gone even before 10:30, that's not really great for Alpine's management to be here to see. It's not great for a French crowd. That's a real kick.
Yeah, they've certainly got a little bit of work to do with that to, you know, at the end of the day, it is endurance racing, so you've got to be able to finish the race before, you know, it doesn't matter how quick or slow you are. But, you know, all of these test programs, you put the work in, you do the testing, you go endurance testing to check all your components, but then the minute you come racing, it's just a different kettle of fish. You cannot, you can't simulate racing, you can't simulate the curbs, the hitting people, all sorts, it's different.
But they didn't even get to 6 hours, which is a kind of standard WEC round. I'm not trying to be a pedant, but, you know, if you're going to be in an endurance championship, reliability is absolutely key, isn't it?
Yeah.
I know Le Mans is a special case, but you ought to be able to do the minimum race distance, as it were, for the other rounds of the championship. So next, going on to 38, Jenson Button stays behind the wheel of the car and charges away. Tries to throw some warm through the tyres. We keep mentioning this tyre warmth element. If you've recently joined the coverage, welcome. Why are we banging on about tyre temperatures? It is because this is the first year of the event that tyre warmers have not been allowed. And Murphy's Law also says it's the coolest that it has been at this race for many, many years. It is not a warm weekend. It's not only been raining at times, it's been pretty chilly all weekend.
From a driver's point of view, that, you know, when you hear no tyre warmers, you just, you know, you think, why do we have to have no tyre warmers? You know, we are at this circuit, you know, trying our best. As a driver, purely driver, I do understand the other reasons, but purely as a driver, Peter, I'm sure you'd agree, you just love tyre warmers. It's so much better.
Yeah, safer. Absolutely, yeah.
I know that one of the arguments to remove tyre warmers is cost. The flip side of the coin, cold tyres, is safety. Which trumps which?
Yeah.
And if you put the car off and smash it up, that cost as well. That cost is way more than...
It's a fair point. 3 wide in the traffic. Look at that. Breathe in. If you see a car breathe in, you know it's tight. I think it just happened. The hypercars on the prowl.
Jenson Button having a moment, of course, just out of the pits. Just as we've said, you know, cold tyres, long straight, no heat. and slightly damp.
Thank you, Jensen. You couldn't have timed that better to illustrate the point. Well done. You must be listening to us. So that car...
A bit of weaving now, trying to...
Yes.
But the thing is, there's only a short, a very thin line of dry track.
Jensen Button in 12th place. That's a great shot, isn't it? You see how narrow the road is, and how dark it is as well.
The first sector must be dried up quite nicely. A couple of green sectors for a few GT cars.
Kind of a tight situation on pit road.
Who's that one going
I had to use the motor a little bit harder to spin it around, but nothing out of the ordinary, nothing, you know, over revved or anything. So I don't know how that would have happened, but we'll get it back to the shop, I guess, and diagnose it, and
so
we'll try to go win the next two.
Number 20, remember Robin Fringe mentioned earlier on,
tough luck. Out of the 14 races, 6 DNFs in 2024. As a matter of fact,
in the back end,
third straight race with a DNF.
Yeah, but loose.
Let me just finish my Robin Fringe sentence. Rear drive shaft, rear brakes being changed on number 20 after the crash earlier on. And there is 15 with massive damage at the front. Dries Vanthoor, for the third time this weekend, has put the car off the road. That looks terminal, doesn't it?
It does. I mean, I think that's the car we saw a minute ago that just ran straight through the gravel. So he had a problem of some description. And he's
cold tyres.
He's got a big problem now. He's on an outlap.
You're right, yeah.
He's on an outlap.
Cold tyres, that's what it is. He's just taking the wets off, put the slicks on.
This is on board.
I know, it was a touch.
You're right.
It was right. That was a touch with Kubica.
Wow. Well, that's going to get looked at, and the mirror falls down, or the screen falls down, and Vanthoor, like, what was that?
That was well spotted, Peter. It was just, you saw it, we were on board the Ferrari at the time, and as he was passing, there was the slightest little wiggle.
Disbelief. He just can't believe what's just happened.
He has just been knocked out of the race, hasn't he? A totally committed Kubica. A yellow flag is out, and I think they realise that's game over. That can't be driven back, can it? With that front left wheel at that angle, that's done.
Absolutely not.
So, BMW, race winners in 1999 in the top class. Both cars have crashed. One is still going, albeit badly delayed and more repairs needed. But as far as 15 is concerned, that looks like it's game over.
Yeah, down at Mulsanne as well, furthest place away possible. So, in terms of drivers got to get out, get himself back. Yeah. Disaster.
It is, but will Kubica get a penalty for that? If race control have another look at it, we'll get another replay, I'm sure.
Well, they're certainly going to look at that. There's no two ways about it. But that's the thing. What do you give? Does something like that warrant just a drive-through or a 10-second?
Our first safety car of the race. First safety car of the running of this year's Le Mans 24 Hours. And, of course, under the safety cars, there are 3. They'll all be picked up around the circuit. Once the incident is clear for the restart, they'll all be put behind one, and then all the gaps will come down. So this now is going to be really interesting as they clear the 15 BMW out of the way.
And I think it could be very good news for the 51 car, who went that lap down, who now is back because they pitted more recently. They're back on the lead lap. Certainly a different complexion of the race. We'll see how it all works out.
That's not good news.
Smoky, in fact, there's a lot of liquid all over the front of that. So what's up the front of that car?
Radiators.
Smoking? I see.
That is steam, that is radiators, that looks like. Usually that's a result of some front end damage. And I think the bumper looks like it's down on one side as well. So that, I don't know if he's had a little off and kissed the barrier or...
It's Brendan Aribe that brought it in. And that does not look good. This is going to be a long stop, isn't it?
Yeah. I'd like to see a replay if we could see that.
And those are the concerned faces at WRT. So, as we were suggesting, with the conditions, suddenly lots of teams in drama. That was the pole car out of LMGT3.
That's incredible, the speed that they could just disassemble that front, have that whole front off the car.
And the safety car on track then, because not only is there a car to be retrieved in the darkness, there's debris as well, so there'll be an element of clearing the track here, won't there?
Yeah, looks like he's hurt himself.
Yeah, he's limping, isn't he?
Oh, caught that a little bit too late. We need to see that from a little bit further back.
That's massive, massive impact. And Dries van Thor complaining that his left foot is hurting, but he's out of the car. He'll have a trip to the medical centre to be checked over, but that's very, very bad news indeed. And the BMW out of the race then. Blue impact light on inside the car, but we know that Van Thor is okay and out of it. But yes, it rattles its way over the bollards, parks on the inside of Mulsanne corner, and there is Dries van Thor walking away, and a trip to the medical centre beckons. There is the end of the race as far as the BMW crew is concerned. Let's listen.
Okay, we're back in this thing. We're gonna all bunch right back up. Good job, bud.
That was the folksy tones at Cadillac to say that Pipo Derani, thanks to the safety car, is now back at the races. But
that's the way this race works. It's,
exactly.
Some people are unfortunate and they come across trouble like that, and then other cars suddenly get brought right back into the race. 311 being one of them, and the 51, I think, being the other.
Somebody's pain, somebody's gain. So that now brings up onto the lead lap, 3:11 again, and back at the races. Now we'll start to see where different cars are around the different safety cars, but they all end up behind one in the end, ready for the restart. The 70 Inception McLaren is almost finished the rebuild, ready to go back out in double quick time. Robert Kubica under investigation, as is Dries van Thor for that incident. No surprise from what we've been saying, what we saw, but just to make the point, Robert Kubica and Dries van Thor under investigation. Well, there's no penalty that can be offered to Van Thor. They're out of the race, penalty enough. But for Kubica, something may be in the system. We'll wait and see.
So the important thing to remember here is that while all three safety cars are on track, you're able to go to the pits. But when it comes to one, you're not allowed to enter the pits.
Well, while we are under safety car, let's take a chance to look at some features and behind the scenes from earlier in the week. Louise went to visit Total Energy.
I'm with Thomas Fritsch, a technical director from Total Energies Motorsport. Now, biofuel has been with WEC and Le Mans for quite a few years now, and you've worked really hard with all of the teams to make sure that it was the optimum fuels for the performance.
Yeah, sure. It's now the third time we are doing Le Mans with this 100% sustainable fuel, Excellium Racing 100. We are very happy about that, and yeah, long work to get the perfect formula, but I think we can say that we found it.
And before we talk about what you're doing actually here, let's talk about there's 62 cars. They run for 10 hours of practice before we even do the 24-hour race. That is a huge amount of fuel that you have to bring here, manage, distribute. So how does that all work?
That's a long work, because we start 1 month before, just starting delivering the fuel in the underground tanks of the old paddock, under the pit wall, in fact. The fuel goes under the pit lane and gets to the pump in every garage. So the overall amount is 300,000 liters of fuel for the whole event.
Ricky had to kind of regroup after that. So you must have to refill at some point.
Yeah, last night during after the hyperpool, we brought 2 big trucks and we topped up all the tanks.
We're running back down. You're better, Tim.
Now here we are.
So I kind of think that
this is where you test the fuels when the cars come in. So just explain that process to us. What are you doing here?
In a few words, it's like, you know, after a race, like every sport, it's like anti-doping testing. So we check if the fuel is exactly the same that we deliver to the competitors, to be sure there are, of course, no cheating.
Okay, so go
yeah.
ahead.
So basically, we use this machine called a gas chromatograph. We take the fuel sample from the car just after the race, and we put a very small column, like a air, in fact, and that allows to separate all the molecules from the fuel. So that's called fuel fingerprint, and we are able to compare the fuel sample in the car and the fuel as a reference from our factory. In a few words, it's like,
what's the minimum amount of fuel you need in a car? Because obviously some of the tactics here are to run the car as light as possible. So what's the minimum amount you need to be able to take these tests?
For this analysis, it's very low because we take this 100 milliliter sample, we transfer into that, but finally in the machine, it's a needle we inject, so it's 0.2 microliter.
Okay, so they can really push it.
Very tiny amount. And we can detect lower than 0.1% contamination in the fuel.
And that was my next question then. What happens? What is contamination and what happens?
Contamination can be several stuff. It's called cheating, but we never, of course, observe that because, yeah, we're in Le Mans. But it could be some mishandling of the fuel or some stuff. The only thing we are here as a fuel analyst, fuel specialist. So we test the fuel, we make a report to the steward, and we let the steward handle the sporting issues.
Lovely, thank you.
Safety car on track at Le Mans, and it is Ferrari in the lead. Robert Kubica, the man behind the wheel of the lead car, but there is an investigation into the contact between him and Dries van Thor, which has put Dries van Thor's BMW out of the race and been the catalyst for this safety car. Remember, the hypercars all on Michelin tyres. Soft, the white walls, mediums are the yellow walls, hards are the red, and we've seen quite a bit of the blue-walled wet tyres. But now, everybody's got rid of those again and are looking at using the softs, the most popular, the quicker compound, now that the road is dry once more. Pit lane opens, traffic accelerates away. On board with Nicholas Nielsen. So the Ferrari, fourth when it came in, still very much in the mix. Of course, we talk about Ferraris. You've got the factory Ferraris, compound AF Corsa, 50 and 51, the road is dry, and then the privateer AF Corsa Ferrari, and that's the one in the lead of the race. And they have been really good on getting the tyre call exactly right, whereas 50 and 51 haven't quite nailed it as well.
But yeah, absolutely right. But now with this safety car, it doesn't matter. It's you know, all bets are off, or all bets are on.
Nicholas Nielsen then has just left the pit lane. The most recent conversation was this.
The target now is to save fuel and save energy. We save fuel, save energy, okay? And we wait for the merging. We wait for the merging.
The merging being when the three safety car lines become one. Three safety cars are used to neutralise the race. Gaps between safety cars are necessary for the marshals to clear the incident. Pit stops are allowed. And then, as Rob was explaining, once the incident is clear, we have one line, pit lane is closed, and that's ready for the restart, effectively.
But then you can get a pass around in that scenario. So the pass arounds only occur when everyone is in one line.
Yeah.
So yeah, so basically, if you're a minute, 2 minutes down even on the leader, you're suddenly going to be right on their tail.
And here, from another angle, is that touch. It wasn't a big hit, but it was enough, and look at the damage it's done.
Kubica was very close to the Porsche, and maybe he felt that, oh, I'm by, and yes, he snuck by, but he did move right.
Yeah, Van Thor stayed straight.
Could there have been any, for want of a better word, aero wash from the Porsche against the Ferrari? No?
Not that much, no.
Okay.
Unless there was a slight touch with the Porsche on the left, and that's what made him go right. I don't know.
But it wouldn't be the airflow from the Porsche, no, okay. So the BMW is craned away. That's number 10 that was leading in LMP2. Stefan Rakelmi has brought the car in, and that will go on to slicks from wets. He met those wets last a long time, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. I don't know what. Of course, we've been focusing on the Michelin runners, but we haven't really looked as to see how long does the Goodyear last. It might be a wet that lasts a lot better into a dry track. So that might well have been the right call. We're not too sure on that.
So up the pit lane he goes, and the lights are on red. So that means that Stefan Rakelmi, the Monegasque driver, will have to wait at the top end. Maxime Martin will get a driving standards flag for the incident with Ben Hanley, but no more than that. He has got away pretty lightly, I would suggest.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's lucky. You know, he didn't judge the car's pace in front and rammed him.
I think he went into a gap that started to close more than that, and I think that's probably what they've deemed that as. There was space, he went into the space, the gap started to close, and...
I'm a bit surprised at that, though, because ultimately, look, we all know Maxim's a fantastic driver. He wouldn't have done that on purpose. That is not the case here. But the reality is he's put another car out.
Spun another car.
Yeah, spun another car.
And it was 30 laps down anyway.
You know what, though? If you are one of the stewards deciding these things, they try not to take into account, like we'll see with the BMW in a minute, they try not to take into account the end result. They try just to focus on what actually happened in that situation. Yeah. If one car, so with Kubica, we'll see what happens, but he might just end up, if he's going to get a penalty, it might just be a drive-through 10-second stop and go, something like that. And you'll think, well, that's not harsh enough. But he's made a mistake. He's ended someone's race, but you're not supposed to look at those final outcomes.
The penalty should be for the move, not the outcome.
Exactly.
Shouldn't it?
Yeah.
Because the move is the move, irrespective, if you like, of the net result. So there, waiting to go, Stefan Rakelmi. He has just lost the lead of LMP2 now to Malte Jakobsen in the Cool Racing number 37 entry. Up into 35th place overall, and now 14th in LMP2 is one M. Bell. Does Big Brother approve?
Well, yeah, look, Matt will carry on with the job in hand and crack on. You know, it's quite clear they're not going to win the race or get a result. But, you know, they've all come here to race, so they're racing, you know, and I'm sure he'll enjoy the experience.
Now, Robert Kubica has some explaining to do.
But the guy had, for 2 sectors, for 2 kilometers blue flag, and he pushed me for the GT twice. While I was taking GT, and we have like side draft, and the car moves slightly to the right, and that's why we crashed.
Okay, copy.
It would be nice, Stewart, look what happened out of the garage, I mean out of the pit lane. He was just in the middle of the road and he was racing me and he was pushing me for the wet patches. I had to let him by because he pushed me to the wet. And same after, he pushed me into the GT.
Copy.
But it doesn't matter what Vanthoor did earlier on in the lap. That's not the move under investigation, is it? The contact is what they're looking at, irrespective of the history.
Yeah, to me now, it seems that he was annoyed and he moved purposely to the right to say, hey, come on, mate, what are you doing?
He's almost talked himself into trouble there.
Yeah, almost.
Stop talking.
Yeah,
stop talking, get off the radio, say nothing.
Yes, hang up now, Robert. So, we've had, as you can see, plenty of overtakes through Hypercar and LMP2, and this then is our first safety car period of the race. There is not only, of course, the car to remove, but the track to sweep and possibly also barrier damage. And 15, we know, is a retirement, so it's another one for the marker of doom to annihilate. Right, you're behind the safety car then. You don't know how long this is going to last. What does a driver do?
Save fuel and energy, as we've been told. I mean, the important thing as well is, you know, you try to keep your tyres warm, but running at that speed, it's difficult. But yeah, a bit of weaving. As Rob mentioned earlier, it's quite good to keep your foot on the brake a little bit, heat the brakes up, and that heat dissipates into the rim and then into the tyres, so that also works.
And I think sometimes as well, it's just trying to keep concentrating, because I find sometimes under slow conditions where it's all quite easy, you know, you haven't got that adrenaline rush, you haven't got that razor-sharp concentration. Actually, it's quite easy to make an error.
Right.
You know, if you come through a corner and a few cars have checked up a bit and you're not concentrating, it's quite easy to ram someone up from behind. So, yeah, you've just got to really pay attention.
Number 6, Porsche, Laurens Vanthoor, 5th. Let's listen.
Is there barrier damage? Because I see repair trucks driving here.
Yeah, it looks to be. It's I think it's Robert Kubica in the straight line that pushed your brother to the barrier. Your brother is fine, just the car is done. And yeah, he hit the barrier, so they need to repair it.
That can't have been an easy message to deliver, to say to somebody, your brother's been involved in the accident.
Well, yeah, but he wasn't that concerned because he was asking if the barrier was broken. He didn't ask if his brother was all right, did he?
Not that we heard, no. Don't forget, at the Nürburgring, they clashed with each other, didn't they?
I think he's been told his brother's fine. He's aware his brother's fine. And what he's actually asking is the barrier damaged? So what he's really asking is this going to be a long safety car?
Yeah. And I think it's going to be reasonably long, yeah. So, I mean, it could even be the best part of a stint, couldn't it? Therefore, all those stops that happened just before, your tyre will really well be stone cold, because you're then going to have to come in, get fuel, then go again.
Let's have another listen to 311. It's up into 10th place now, Pipo Derani's Cadillac.
Feels so cold, starting to drop by a lot.
Understood. You'll have plenty of time to warm it up.
And there is number 60 Lamborghini still being repaired after Claudio Schiavone put it into the barriers in the wet. So we are heading towards 11 o'clock. We're heading towards 7 hours of racing being completed here. And it remains Ferrari in the lead. Robert Kubica ahead of Fred Makovici in Porsche number 5. And then Rio Hirakawa's Toyota number 8 in 3rd place. The heart of racing, Aston, to the pit lane. That car 3rd in class. Ian James, patron, the man that owns the team, the expat Brit, he's brought it in. And they can take their time over this pit stop to a degree, as we are under the safety car. Wait for the next line to go by before they can be released. And when that car does venture back out, we'll see where it is going to slot in class, because it was just ahead of Jack Hawksworth's Lexus and then Michelle Gatting's Iron Dame's Lamborghini. Screen cleaned on the Aston. Meantime, it is proper dark now at Le Mans, isn't it? The light has gone. And although the rain for the moment has disappeared as well, so is much of the temperature.
Yeah, track temp's down to 16 degrees, which is about as cold as we've seen it all week. Air temp 14, so it's pretty chilly out there.
Nick de Vries, 9th in the Toyota number 7. Let's listen in there.
Nick, I just want to rule out that we are limited in fuel, so let's really make sure we save energy and fuel here. Just a reminder on the restart procedure, so once the incident is cleared, we will merge all to one safety car, and then everybody will restart in one block. So we're gonna be all together with the hypercars until position 12. Currently we are P9. Obviously the restart will be, people will take risk, and we need to stay on the safe side for the restart.
It's a point well made, isn't it? Because everybody is going to be together, and there's more chance of an incident when everyone's bunched up.
On not so hot tyres, so you get to the braking zone into Dunlop, say, and there might be some locking up and some running wide.
So just the 17 hours and 2 minutes to go of the 24 hours, but it's been a lively start, that is for sure. Across the line comes this safety car pack. So it is Ferrari, Porsche, Toyota, Ferrari, Porsche, Cadillac, Ferrari, Porsche, Toyota, Cadillac, Cadillac, Porsche, Lamborghini, Porsche, Lamborghini, Peugeot, Peugeot, Isotta, and then still classified 19th, but out of the race, BMW, so that's going to bring up into 19th place the delayed Proton Porsche Neil Jani at the wheel. So the field up through the Dunlop S's. Driver change in 46, that is out, presumably Ahmad Al-Hati in, but we'll check in a moment. There's another safety car pack heading out of the S's.
Le Mans in France, and trouble for the 77 Ford Mustang in GT3. Left front wheel not doing what the driver wanted, a broken steering rack. That is a long job to replace. The team set to with a will, but 2 hours later it remains in the garage and not quite ready to go back out on track yet. No other damage whatsoever to the car, and no damage for this gravel trapping moment either for Danny Kvyat, leaving the pit lane, out of the pits, straight into the gravel in the number 63 Lamborghini. Trouble too for the number 19 car, also out of the pits and into the barriers at Tertre Rouge. Both cars survived, but for Ferdy Habsburg returning to the Alpine Renault team, no such luck. His car expiring down at Arnage, a terminal engine failure. Alpine Renault, the winners here in 1978, but on their return to the top class, the 35 car out before dark. And even almost as the car was being craned away, more trouble for Sarah Bovy in the Iron Dames Lamborghini. The car that was up to third in the GT3 class was clattered in the Porsche curves by, ironically enough, the Porsche of Mathieu Jaminet. The Penske driver would later serve a penalty. Fortunately, Bovy was on her way with no major dramas shortly afterwards, but a big impact. It could have been so much worse. Jaminet, the guilty party, received a penalty. Bovy continuing in the race with her teammates. But for the second Alpine hypercar, critical alarms in the cockpit and the end of the road. Once more, their new engine in their new car had had enough. A disappointing end for the French team on their first Le Mans in over 40 years. And then rain arrived for the second time, once more scrambling the order. Straight in for Wets, the number 83 car of the race leader. For those who stayed out on slicks, it was not easy going, as evidenced by the number 95 McLaren spinning at the Dunlop chicane. Safety car remains out even after Schiavone's car made it back to the Iron Links garage for a ground-up restoration, and the number 15 car out of the race. Part of the reason for the 15 car being out of the race is that the left front wheel was essentially ripped off the car, but the severity of the impact also triggered the impact light in the windscreen, which means that the driver must go immediately to the medical centre. So even if the car had been outwardly pristine, the severity of the impact means that the driver is taken out of the car and the car therefore is retired on the spot. So the marker of doom will be my first small entertainment, although it's not much of an entertainment for BMW. Oh, David's beaten me to it already. He's taken that small joy from my life. The number 15 BMW is out of the race. It joins two further hypercars that are out of the race. The number 35 Alpine, that blew its engine quite spectacularly down at Arnage with Ferdy Habsburg at the wheel, and then critical alarms came on in the cockpit of the number 36 car, almost literally on that lap, and it too was parked for examination, and very quickly the hand run over the throat showing that it too was out. So both Alpines out just as darkness fell, and our third hypercar out is the BMW from the M-Team WRT car number 15. So two Alpines, one BMW out. The other car that went out a little earlier on, quite a lot earlier on actually, Thomas Floor driving his own Vista AF Corsa Ferrari number 54 car, had an accident going up to the Dunlop chicane, spun onto the right-hand side, clattered the barriers, and that was the end of him. Cars that have been in for work include Proton Competition's number 77 Mustang, which 2 hours later is still having its steering rack changed, and the Inception Racing McLaren. Oh, that's nice. Support for the Toyota team from back home. Not quite sure where home might be for Patrick 28, but lots of homes, I'm sure, supporting them. But the Inception Racing team, Brendan Iribe is still in the garage, but I gather from our correspondent on the site, Bruce Joanny, that things are going back together. That was a clatter on the left front corner of the car, which caused significant damage. We could tell it was the left side, because they're also replacing the driver's door mirror there. Riding with Joel Sturm, Manthey Pure Racing, our points leaders in GT3, and that car is, woo! There's a sort of video replay that a steward is going to want to look at, Anthony Davidson. A view of that contact, the tiniest touch between race leader Robert Kubica and Dries van Tor in the number 15 BMW that clattered the BM off the road and out of the race.
Well, all I can see is that Dries van Tor didn't move the steering wheel to the left at all, so he's holding it straight the whole time, doing the right thing, car completely on the edge of the track, eyes wide in disbelief, hands up in the air. What on earth happened there? Race leader was the car at fault there, in my opinion, and I'm sure the stewards are going to see it that way as well. They always look at who was to blame for two cars making contact, and I think it's 100% the fault of the race leader, Robert Kubica, there.
Yeah, we actually heard on the team radio Kubica coming on afterwards, trying to sort of explain to his engineer and the team why it wasn't his fault. And what he kind of said was, as he'd come at the beginning of that lap, he'd come across Dries, and he felt Dries had been a bit aggressive towards him and put him on the wet patch, etc. But it kind of just made it look like he was pointing the finger at himself again. He almost was saying, well, he did that to me then, and I did that to him then. But he was claiming sort of a bit of innocence. But for me, as you said, Dries van Tor didn't move, and Kubica came across him.
Cause of the collision, that's all they look at. It's a very matter-of-fact process. It's almost as if you just got to imagine a computer's making like it's based on AI technology. The way a computer would see that is cause of collision, it was car 83.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
René Rast at the back of the garage watching on as the number 20 BMW art car essentially is getting a lot of cleaning. Now, this car's had its fair share of woes. It is WRT's only remaining hypercar BMW. And this, of course, is the, whatever it is, anniversary of the Williams-built BMW V12 prototype winning here at Le Mans. There's the stage that will be keeping us awake throughout the night and has done for the last couple of evenings. And the marshals and the drivers, because it's handily been sited right next to the biggest team campsite in the campus. That needs a bit of a rethink. It's not me, it's Valentino Rossi who's going to be the one they listen to on this, though.
I genuinely have been not kept awake at all. So I don't know where I am.
Well, that's because you're in your mum and daddy's nice motorhome, and we're in some very small caravan. My caravan, I did fear at one stage you might actually fall over. We're so close to the stage. Anyway, moving on to the race. Safety car remains out. So our crews are going around behind 3 different safety cars. The safety cars are not scrambled to pick up the class leaders or anything. They're just scrambled, and they pick up the very first car that gets to them. So going round behind safety car C is the race leader, number 83. That's actually also the longest queue. I believe going round behind safety car B is the number 51 Ferrari that had dropped off the lead lap. And for them, and I think for this cruise car, 311, there's a chance that they will get a lot closer back up behind the leader. The reason is, when we are finished with the barrier repairs and we are ready to go back to racing, all 3 safety car queues will be merged behind safety car A. Safety car B and C will pull off, and I will slap David Addison firmly around the chops for his troubles. But when safety car A has everybody behind it, then any car in any class that has its class leader behind it in the queue will be waved round to go and join the tail of that safety car train. So once we've got one queue of safety cars after the merge, we get the wave by. Why do we have a wave by? Well, imagine this. Imagine that you are 10th in your class and most of a lap behind the leader. Imagine then that you're behind safety car A, he got caught by safety car B, and then that big gap closes right up, and suddenly your race leader that was maybe a minute behind you could be the very next car behind you and immediately have the chance to put your car a lap down. So anybody in any of our 3 classes in the long merged safety car queue, when that happens, when the barrier repairs are done, who has the race leader of their class behind them, not the overall race leader, their class leader, you will get the wave around. Now, again, you think, well, that's a long, convoluted... It was a long, convoluted sentence. What it actually does, it takes less than a lap of Le Mans to wave everybody around for them to catch up, because it worked last year, well rehearsed, everybody understands the rules, hopefully everybody understands the rules, and hopefully also when the two safety cars, safety car B pulls in at Arnage and safety car C pulls in on the Mulsanne straight, the crews behind them will know or be told by their teams to catch up safety car A's queue, and then once we've merged, we can wave around, and then at that stage we're ready to go green, green, green.
The only time, of course, where we won't have this procedure is within the last hour to go of the race, where they'll stay behind the individual trio of safety cars.
Yes, if there is a safety car situation in the final hour, then there will be 3 safety cars, and when we're ready to go green, they'll all release their cars at the same time. So
we've got someone coming into the pits here. I can't quite see who that is at the moment, not on our timing screens. But basically what will happen here is if you come into the pits under, say this is safety car B, for example, you have to wait until safety car A that's behind it will come past, and you wait till the whole gaggle of cars come past you. The next, so you see that car pulling into the pits, they've got to now wait until the next safety car comes around and the whole stream of cars, then you go and join that safety car queue. Doesn't really matter, because you're going to all join in one safety car A at the end of all of this process once the track is clear.
But what it does mean is that nobody at the front of a long safety car queue can duck into the pits and have effectively a free pit stop. So what it means is there are longer stops. We already saw WRT changing the brakes on their GT3 BMW. Brake change there going on for the Vista Ferrari as well. Here's James Calado shaking his head about something.
Must have just lost at Snake again.
So for a lot of the teams, it's hurry up and wait, but the safety car is starting to get long enough now that they are starting to think of doing other housekeeping. 54 is out, the other Vista AF Corsa Ferrari. 55 continues. Sweep up operation, the man with the flamethrower on his back, that's actually just a leaf blower, the big motor. He's not actually going to set fire to anything, he's just clearing debris off the track. And it's a great opportunity for the race director to employ marshals to go into, particularly at places like the Dunlop chicane, which is just a rallycross stage covered in gravel after the first couple of moments of the race.
Deploy the marshals, not employ, because they're all volunteers.
Yes, exactly.
And we should never forget that. This race, or any motor race for that matter, wouldn't happen without the volunteers that we have here at Le Mans. And yeah, they do an amazing job. And right now we're relying on them, and also the dedicated crew repairing that barrier. That's what we're all waiting for. And we've had, it's not the first time, I don't know if you mentioned this already, Rob, when we were away off the mic, but see the barrier on the right hand side. We've seen this happen already this week with a support, the Road to Le Mans support race. Damaged the barrier, and it took a long time. Well, Freddie Mercury gets to work.
I was going to say, where's the I Want to Break Free soundtrack? But this is the attention to details of the teams. They're hoovering up bits of muck and gravel out of the garage as well. So they don't want to add anything to the car when it comes into the pit. That's the 31 BMW garage. 46 still in the race, and in fact 46 is currently lying second in LMGT3. And the 31 car is, I've gone number blind, it's 47th overall, which is 12th, 13th, unlucky 13th in class. Robert Kubica, well, I don't know what radio traffic there might be going on that we're not party to, but I suspect that his internal monologue is probably not entirely a happy one. They've had a charmed race so far. First rain, they stayed out on slicks, gained a lot over those who went for wet weather tyres, like the number 8 Toyota, like the number 51 Ferrari, particularly among their closest rivals. Second rain came when he was auspiciously positioned on the track. He was able to dive into the pit lane, losing very little time, got onto the wets and managed to build up his advantage. And Rob, you know, all of the cards played nicely for them here, but that contact is going to undo at least some of that.
Yeah, not only did they put the wets on at the right time, which was coinciding with the pit stop, so couldn't have been better. They actually then, the amount of time, I think they did 8 or 9 laps, and the perfect timing again for slicks. So they absolutely got it perfectly right. A little bit of the luck of the draw, but absolutely nailed that. And then, yes, we are sort of waiting, looking at our screens, expecting some form of... I personally think he's going to get penalised in some way. Having said that, look, they've had a great race up to now, and if it's a drive-through, it won't cost them the race. It won't cost them too much. So let's see about that. But so far, they've been the class of the field, or the luckiest so far.
Yeah, and some of that, you know, you can't win Le Mans without luck. You can't win by not preparing and not having a good car and not having a good team and all the other stuff, but you do need luck on your side as well. As we always say, Le Mans chooses the winner. Look at the support that they have got here in the Iron Dames garage. Their livery, incidentally, was created by the imaginings of some school children a few weeks ago. It was essentially draw the job you would like to do, whether it's mum or teacher or airline pilot or race driver or whatever, and those were created as little memes to go on the car. So an awful lot of support here. Essentially, as I say so often, they've got 50% of the global population rooting for them, and the other 50% is spread around the rest of the field. And in fact, probably there's as many young boys watching the Iron Dames in action thinking, actually, that's such a cool team and such a cool livery that they ought to do well as well. Here's the 46 BMW WRT car that we were talking about. Amada Harty up. That car second place at the moment, head of the Lexus of Jack Hawksworth. Now, the 78 car was the one that took a shunt up the back, wasn't it, in the very early... it was in morning warm-up, wasn't it, from Nick de Vries in the number 7 Toyota, and that had to start from the pit lane. It is still going, but Lexus have turned their fortunes around, turned their performance around, let's say, since the season opened in February in Qatar, where they were absolutely nowhere, had no performance, and were essentially just pinball buffers for everybody else bouncing off them and bouncing them into the gravel. And here they are, car genuinely on pace in the top 3. And Anthony, that's them now starting to learn how to fulfill the potential of the car. It's not that they've got a performance break in any way, it's just that they're starting to learn how to operate the car.
Exactly, and you know, you can be running that car elsewhere as well, but running it in a different championship under tweaked rules and regulations, subtle tweaks, can have a big knock to any team running in a new championship. So let alone a brand new car. So yeah, you know, we expect things to shake out in a different way as the championship continues. And you're right, we turned up in Qatar and they were nowhere. Yeah. And the drivers found the car very difficult as well in a circuit that really doesn't challenge all aspects of a car's agility, I must say. It's a very singular track and just built of medium speed corners.
The left tire pressure is quite low.
Yeah, copy that, mate. Copy that. Not a lot we can do about it, and there will be everybody on the same boat at the restart. Once I know a bit more, don't worry, I will allow you to work on your brakes and work on your tires. For the moment, focus on energy save.
Yeah, it's still a long way, I think, for the barrier.
Yeah.
I check every lap, it seems that they have to remove everything first, then change it, and they didn't remove anything yet. Only one part was going to be quite long yet.
Yeah, he's absolutely right. It is a very lengthy barrier repair job going on. So good advice from the engineer, Bertie, to Norman Nato, saying just you focus on the energy saving is one thing Jota are really good at as a team. You do that job, I'll let you know when it's likely to be. Basically, when we start forming the one safety car, then you can start working on the tyre warm-up.
Also, it's flipping cold. Where's the heater controls in this thing? Because the track temperature is 16 degrees, Anthony. The air temperature is down just in double digits. So it's going to be a cold night here, and that's before it gets raining again.
It's quite interesting, though, that conversation's been had, and what they're saying is, look, don't worry about tyres for now. We are so needing to save every ounce of energy that we don't want weaving, we don't want throttle or brake any more than we have to. So you just tootle around as slow as you possibly can to save energy, and then once we get probably to that point where we know we're going to merge, then we can start warming tyres and brakes and just using that little bit more energy. So really focusing on what procedure they've probably talked about before the race and had briefings about. So yeah, good detail there from Jota, as you'd expect.
He's done 8 laps so far, and driving around at this speed, they'll easily go beyond the 12 that we know the car's capable of. So yeah, plenty of time still before it gets anywhere near having to come into pit for fuel, is Norman Nato in the number 12 at this stage.
Yeah, and he's on the right tyre, he's on the soft. I'm guessing, in fact, we're looking now, most of the cars, or if not all, are on the soft tyres. So yeah, he'll have ample opportunity to warm them up.
Yes, I mean, the fact that we're running the soft tyre in, I say, the heat of the midday, the less Arctic conditions of midday, surely means that they'll all be pushed onto that soft tyre all the way through the night. We can hear from